dam itself. You can see those boulders are being packed into these white bags of sort of a nylon material, white bags. These boulders, we understand, will be attached then to the belly of an aircraft, a helicopter. That helicopter will then fly them to a location where they are needed in the area of the auxiliary spillway at the dam itself. And I want to walk you over and show you the dam that is now just off to our left. And you can see at the far end, a set of emergency lights have been set up. That is to monitor both the spillway and the auxiliary or emergency spillway that have been flooding out water here all day long. That emergency spillway, the cause for concern. Water has begun to erode that spillway at a pace, again, never been used before, that spillway, so it was very difficult to predict what might happen when Lake Oroville got high enough that the water started tipping over and coming down that emergency spillway. That did begin to happen, and that water is having an effect that was not planned for, certainly not an effect the Department of Water Resources and the infrastructure folks out here wanted. It's begun to erode that bank, and that's why the plan to use the boulders has been put into place. Now, we did see a helicopter circling that area at very low levels, maybe half an hour or so ago now, but we haven't seen any activity in the air since that time. However, the activity here up on the parking lot above the dam, well, that's happening at a more and more furious pace. As you can see, more and more bags of boulders are being loaded, and more trucks are bringing those boulders in, dumping them out right here on the parking lot, and work crews are again loading them into those enormous bags and positioning them so they can be attached to the bottom of a helicopter should they go ahead with that plan. Here's another truck coming in right now, live behind us, likely going to dump another huge load of these boulders that will then be loaded into those white bags. Those white bags will be positioned where they can be attached to the belly of an aircraft, a helicopter, and taken to where the erosion is worse and most concerning for the Department of Water Resources. We are continuing to monitor that process. There are dozens and dozens of bags now loaded, and they continue to be loaded here above the Oroville Dam, but so far we haven't seen any of them lift off. We are waiting for that. We are told that is likely to happen very soon. Reporting live from Oroville, Ben Deasy with Fox 40 News.
Ben, thanks so much. I want to give you an update now. We've been talking about how resources from across the state, Southern California, coming up to help. We now know that the Stockton Fire Water Rescue Task Force is actually headed to Oroville to help out with the efforts there.
Okay, and in that evacuation area, and again, the stretch is quite away, but we have 35 different schools and 2 hospitals. And we just heard a little while ago from county officials that it's those medical areas, it's those hospitals that are a real challenge sometimes, especially when you have to evacuate large numbers of people. Want to send it back into the newsroom because Mark Dembski's got an update for us on some other effects of these evacuations. Mark.
Yeah, good evening, Joe. Good evening, Nikki. A lot of this information it bears worth repeating, but I did just get a piece of information into the newsroom that the Butte County Jail is being evacuated out of concern and caution, obviously. I am told that this is according to the Butte County Sheriff's Department. They are transporting the inmates to other nearby jail facilities at this time. Again, the Butte County Jail is being evacuated as we speak, and inmates being transferred to nearby jail facilities at this time. Now, we did want to mention that, again, according to the Associated Press, the latest numbers that we have, we've talked to a lot of people that are on their way out of town, but according to the AP, 130,000 people evacuated at this time. Getting lots of calls to the newsroom from our Placer County friends in Roseville, Rockland, Lincoln, you name it. Right now, at this time, there is no evacuation orders under for Placer County at this time. Joe did mention a while ago that the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds, about 40 minutes ago, was reported to be full. That is in Chico. So some of the other evacuation centers that you can go to, again, the Nevada County Fairgrounds is taking on both RVs and animals as well. You access through Gate 4. Again, that's the Nevada County Fairgrounds. And at 7:30 tonight, a shelter opened up in Orland at the Glenn County Fairgrounds. Again, that is the address is 221 East Yolo Street in Orland, again, the Glenn County Fairgrounds. So a lot of information to pass along, but the latest that we have here in the newsroom, Joe and Nikki, that the Butte County Jail is being evacuated and inmates being taken to other jail facilities.
All right, Mark, thank you. And for a full list of the areas that have already been evacuated and evacuation centers where you need to go if you need to find some refuge, you can go to our website at fox40.com. I know this is a lot of information, but all of it is there if you need to double check it.
And I know we've been talking about this a lot, especially you and Dennis. We're talking about the spillway here, not the dam. Caltrans, DWR, they've been putting a lot of posts on social media trying to clear that up. And Dennis, I know that you are going to kind of take us through what we're talking about, the area that they're focusing on.
That's right, Nikki, because I think it's just as important to address a lot of the misinformation that's out there as it is to give the information that's correct. Misinformation we've heard and seen on Twitter is that the dam itself is in danger. That's the dam itself you're looking at. That is not in danger. Nobody's saying anything about the dam itself, and nobody's saying anything about a failure of a dam or spillway. The failure has not happened. It is a concern about a failure of the spillway that has prompted the evacuation orders. Okay, what you're looking at right there in the center, that is the emergency spillway where chunks of concrete did break away earlier in the week, and they have had to curtail some of the flows down that because of that damage. So the auxiliary spillway, for the first time ever, was put into place, and all that is this cement dam-looking structure that you see to the left of the controlled spillway, and the water flows over that emergency spillway. It's designed to do that when the lake literally overflows and they can't use that concrete spillway. So the water flows down through all of this wildland into the Feather River, as it has been doing over the past several days. But that has caused, as you can imagine, you see all the dirt involved here, that has caused some erosion. And in the words of the Department of Water Resources, the operation of the emergency spillway has led to severe erosion that could lead to a failure of the structure. When we talk about a failure of the structure, it is that cement structure, and so the underlying earth has been compromised that supports it. And so if that concrete structure were to fail, that's when you'd have an uncontrolled release of water out of this lake, which has gone from 80% full to overflowing in less than a week because of all the heavy rain and runoff. So they had to increase releases down the damaged spillway where chunks of concrete fell off. They had to increase those to 100,000 cubic feet per second today, even though it's damaged and water is flowing all around the spillway. But that was a better measure than letting a continuous push of uncontrolled water further erode the earth around the auxiliary spillway, which is where the concern is tonight, in addition to the damaged spillway itself. Nikki and Joe.
All right, Dennis, thanks. And we just learned a few minutes ago that Department of Water Resources is going to be having a press conference at 9 o'clock. So in about a half an hour from now, we'll get you the latest information. Of course, we'll carry that live for you.
Yeah, new information that's coming. Now, just to give you a quick recap again, if you are just joining us, this situation happened earlier today. We got the alert around 4:30. Actually, I think we're going to go live right now to Bendisi, or at least getting a live look at the Oroville Dam. What you're seeing right now is actually the plan to try to stop some of that water. And what we were described earlier was that you see those boulders right there. They are filling bags with those boulders, and at some point they're going to take those bags up in a helicopter over to the emergency spillway, to some of the more problematic areas, and they're going to try to plug some of those holes. That was the plan that we heard from a press conference earlier today from Butte County officials. I don't know if Bendisi can hear me right now. Producers can. Okay, so we're just getting a live look, but that's what you're seeing right there. And again, that is a massive, massive effort right there. No timetable yet on when that might happen, when they might actually start to take those bags. But I mean, you're looking at it right there. It's dozens, if not hundreds, of those bags being filled with boulders. You've got a number of workers that are there right now at the dam. This is sort of the center of where this is all happening. Ben, from that vantage point, could actually see the emergency spillway. Said that from what he saw, there were lights below that were still on. So had we been talking about worst case scenario here, where that water was flooding over that area onto those lights, we wouldn't have been able to see them. We heard earlier from emergency officials that they were, in fact, a little bit more hopeful later on, about 6 o'clock, when we heard from them, than they were earlier in the day when they were expecting that water to sort of overflow, or at least preparing for that to potentially happen. I want to send it over to Sarah Zenadam, who is live right now for us at the emergency office in Sacramento, the Cal Office of Emergency Services right now. Sarah, what are you hearing from them?
Well, Joe, not much has changed here at Cal OES. The State Operations Center is still obviously activated. Very, very active situation, very fluid situation here as well. You can see they're at full activation right now. That means all hands on deck for this situation. We're still waiting for that press conference. It's supposed to start somewhere around 9 o'clock, where we'll get a little bit more information about how Cal OES and other local, state, and federal representatives will move forward with this situation. Now, as I mentioned a little bit ago, during the January storms, there was activation here at this center as well, but it was about half of what you see right now. You can see just what a dire situation we're in, and obviously, as I said, all hands on deck here. And the last time they were at full activation was during the Napa earthquake just a couple of years ago. So right now, Cal OES tells us they're just in the information gathering stage. And once they get that information, then they'll figure out exactly what course of action to take. And like I said, 9 o'clock press conference is expected. And once we get some more information, we'll definitely relay it back to you guys. For now, at Cal OES, Sarah Zendanam, Fox 40 News.
Sarah, thanks so much. And we're keeping an eye on social media because that's where we're getting some updates. And we know that Beale Air Force Base just posted this not too long ago, saying it's supportive of local communities. Beale Air Force Base has authorized transit across the installation, entering via either the Doolittle Gate or the Schneider Gate and exiting to higher ground via the Grass Valley Gate. Additionally effective at 7:30, so that was an hour ago. An emergency shelter will be evacuated on base for those in need of support. So once again, less than an hour ago, Beale Air Force Base helping out with some additional shelter.
And we mentioned earlier, this is an absolute multi-agency effort right now. You have law enforcement officials, emergency officials from all over helping out. Just got word that Placer County is sending sheriff's deputies up to Oroville right now. They're en route to try to help people evacuate there. We're going to send it over to Christina now in the Weather Center, who's got some more updates for us. Christina.
Yeah, we're just going to recap again the flash flood warning that is in effect and will last until about 4:15 tomorrow. I want to also update you on the Feather River. There's concerns, obviously, that we're going to see rises. So here's a look at the flash flood warning. You can see it's for all areas, obviously, to the south and to the west of Lake Oroville. The concerns are cities like Oroville, Biggs, Palermo, as you head towards Gridley. These are all the spots that they want people to get out and be safe. The Feather River right now, I was just looking at all of the graphs as far as where they would rise and do we have concerns of flooding. Right now, as we know, they've increased the outflow out of the dam to make sure that they can get some of this water down. Now, it looks like so far, even with the increase in strength of water that is starting to flow out, that the Feather River will be just fine at all the areas that we monitor. The Feather River can handle what they are putting out right now. However, the concern, as Dennis mentioned, is that auxiliary dam. If that happens, then we have an uncontrolled amount of water, and that's obviously going to cause rises in many areas that certainly would not be prepared. So right now, the Feather River looks just fine. The key is keeping the outflow at the number that they need it to be to keep everyone safe as you move downstream. So that's what we're really going to watch. Obviously, if this auxiliary dam goes, if we see that outflow of water that's uncontrollable, we are going to have a lot of problems, and it's going to be, yes, even very far downstream. It may take many hours for that to happen. You have to consider we'll see the immediate response in the areas closest, but still 9 to 10 hours later, we could well downstream as you head towards Palermo, as you head towards Gridley. That's when we would see those concerns, because obviously it's going to take some time for that water to build, but it will build, and then it will be more water, obviously, than the Feather River banks can handle. Guys.
You know, and we actually, right away at the beginning, around 4:30, when we got these alerts, they were talking about specific areas in Oroville, and it didn't take long for them to say, okay, if you're in anywhere in Oroville at all, you need to be evacuated. So it's just hour by hour.
And areas downstream. And we've all been monitoring the social media. Sacramento PD. We saw just out of Natomas, Angelique Ashby, all of these areas. These people are monitoring right now. None of our areas specific to Sacramento, specific to Natomas, West Sacramento, not in any immediate threat. But you know that everyone is watching this. This is something we really have to, because even as we go through the next few hours, it's going to be slowly but surely if some something was to happen, that everyone would see that. So that's why we take this precaution, get everybody out as far as we can, and then hopefully hope for the best that they are, as Ben said, going to get this under control.
Pretty stunning, the images too. Caltrans just tweeted out a pic not too long ago of the traffic very, very heavy on southbound 99 and Highway 70. People just trying to get out, and they're saying, please use caution. But we have Ben DC standing by right now at the dam with the latest from there. Ben.
Yeah, Nikki, you and Joe were talking about how many boulders had been loaded, how many bags have been loaded with those boulders. I want to show you behind me live right now. You can see just a massive number of bags loaded up with these boulders, again, hopefully in support of this airlift operation to try to get some support, try to get this material into breaches in the area of the spillway. Just take a look at just the dozens and dozens of bags that have been loaded, and that operation is still ongoing. Now, the spillways are still in operation right now too, and you can see that just over the hill there through the trees. The lights are still on. That is a very, very good sign. Those lights are set up to shine on both the auxiliary spillway and the original spillway, both of which we now know have structural problems, are crumbling as the water rushes over them. But the fact that those lights are still visible to us, again, a very good sign. If the water had begun rushing in an uncontrolled way, if this dam had given, or the auxiliary spillway had given out, and to a degree that Department of Water Resources was concerned it might, you wouldn't be seeing those lights. Those lights very well could be underwater. But as we speak of lights, I want to take you over this way yet again for a look at the dam. Can't see it, can you? That's because the lights that have lined this dam and been on all evening long, just within the past couple of minutes, have gone dark. Now, we don't know if that's a bad sign, but it certainly is not helpful to crews who are making their way across this dam trying to check on its integrity as this scenario unfolds. Again, the lights on Oroville Dam have just a few minutes ago gone out.
All right, Ben, we'll continue. Yep, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
You can see at the very far end, that's the area where that truck with the yellow lights flashing, that's the area of concern here. That's where both the spillway and the emergency spillway are, and that's where the erosion is occurring as this water rushes out of Lake Orville. And we could tell you just by looking, we have seen the level of the lake decrease. Now, that's a good thing as long as it's done slowly and steadily. The concern here is that water will begin pouring out rapidly in an uncontrolled fashion as that auxiliary emergency spillway, if you will, may collapse. So far, we have not seen that. That's the good news. But again, lights on the dam now out.
All right, Ben, thanks so much. Christina, you said you have a quick update for us?
Yeah, we're just getting word that the Oroville Dam has dropped about 4 inches in the last hour. So far it's gone down about a foot in 4 hours. So that would put it just below the lip of the emergency auxiliary there. So that is good news. It is starting to come down. And that's what they've tried to do, was actually increase the flows out so that they could limit what would actually fall over this auxiliary portion of the dam. So right now it has started to come down. We would hope that it would continue to trend down, but again, the farther they can get this down, obviously, the better off it's going to be.
Okay, Christina, thank you. Yeah, they've increased those flows from 55 to 100,000 cubic feet per second. So it seems to be working, which is good news. Okay, we're going to send it out right now to Doug Johnson, who's live for us in Yuba City. Doug, I know you've been talking to people who were in the process of evacuating. Is it still as hectic as it was earlier?
Yeah, it certainly is, Joe. You know, we just spoke with a woman who was right here in this silver pickup truck. She just told us she's been on this same stretch of Highway 20 for the last 3 hours. And you can see it's not moving very quickly at all. People, some of them just turning their cars off and starting them again when they need to move. The entire town is shut down. If you take a look across the street, you can see a Popeye's Kitchen. This should usually be open, but you can see it is completely shut down. Employees there and at the Long John Silver's next to it have all closed down so that they can leave and go help their families out. There's a Walgreens that says 24/7. It's open 24/7. It's also closed right now, even though the sign that says open 24/7 is still highlighted. But you can take a look and see, I mean, the town is completely shut down. Everyone is basically in the same situation these people are in, stuck on the same road for more than 3 hours. We spoke with a gas station. They said that at one point in time, the line just for one pump was 7 cars long. It was 7 cars long for each pump around the gas station. So people also filling up, making sure they have enough fuel to get to where they're going. We talked to one family who went who's had plans to go as far as Los Angeles tonight because that's their closest family. A lot of people told us they don't know where to go because they keep hearing that the evacuation centers that they're trying to get to in Colusa are closing. We keep telling people to go to our Fox 40 News app because we have all the information there of where the latest evacuation centers are. But you can see even the Golden Arches way down there are dark tonight here in Yuba City, and that is just a sign of just how closed everything is. So even these people that have been in this traffic jam for the last 3 hours, they don't have anything to eat. A lot of them don't have a lot of options to get something to eat. We've also seen a lot of pets in these cars, and we're hearing ambulances coming and going all over Yuba City, trying to get people who are stuck in their homes, sick, out of their homes, because again, mandatory evacuation, everyone is trying to get out. Joe?
Doug, I know you talked to people there a little while earlier. Just wondering, what's the sense that you're getting among people in terms of how they're feeling right now? I mean, is it apprehension? You know, what are they telling you?
You know, a lot of people told us that they don't think anything that bad's going to happen, but they'd rather be safe than sorry. A lot of them telling us they're praying, they're packing their patience, but they're remaining faithful that the authorities and the crews up the river are going to get things worked out so that it doesn't flood here. But again, they're getting out because they're being told to get out. We have run into a few people. I've talked to at least 2 people. There goes another ambulance. Who told me they plan to stay. They say it's not worth waiting in this line. That is not advisable. I think the sheriff and the police are going around making sure people are leaving. But again, some people told us they're giving up. They don't want to try and wait in this for 3 hours. They're going to stay here. But I think the majority of people here in town, Joe, they're taking this seriously and they're trying to get out. But again, 3 hours just on this stretch of Highway 20 through Yuba City. You can imagine people are getting very impatient. But for the most part, nobody's panicking. Joe.
Okay, Doug, thank you. Doug, along Highway 20, we're also hearing that highways 99 and 70 also in a situation where it's absolutely just jam-packed with people trying to evacuate right now. But again, if you have to evacuate, if you're in those areas, you want to do it. It's going to take you a long time. Expect those delays, but that's where they're asking you to evacuate to, highways 99 and 70 towards Sacramento or south on Highway 113 toward Yolo County and the Bay Area. I have another update for you now. The Silver Dollar Fairgrounds in Chico, that is also full now. So you can go to Colusa County Fairgrounds, you can go to Glenn County Fairgrounds and the Nevada County Fairgrounds. But again, the one in Chico is closed. And for more information, you can call 211. If you have an emergency, you can call that from a cell phone or from a landline, or you can call 866-916-3566. It's that number that you see there on your screen. If you have an emergency, 211, the other number at the bottom if you need any sort of information about evacuations or any of the situations that you could be dealing with now.
Just a couple more updates in terms of evacuation centers. We talked about Beale Air Force Base. Some new information on that. It's the Harris Fitness Center. It's located on base. It's currently an active shelter location. It opened about an hour ago. They can take 400 people, and what you'll do is you're going to want to park at Dragontown, and then you're going to be transferred by bus. So once again, the Harris Fitness Center, that is a shelter location. They're telling us that the dining facility will offer food and water. Of course, we'll continue to update our website and our app. We'll have all this information there as well. Do have some new information from Butte County. They're saying that these are the lists of hotels in Chico that are full. I'm going to run through a couple of them right now.
Verizon has finally realized that
Haven Inn, Heritage Inn, Motel 6, the Ramada Oxford Suites, Quality Inn, Regency Inn. This is a tweet from Butte County. New information that these several hotels in Chico are full. So a lot of people trying to get out of town. These places are filling up. Be sure to check out your shelters. And let's talk more about the traffic because I know, Dennis, you're keeping a close eye on that.
Yeah, we have our traffic computer going here. And excuse me, the good news is that north of Oroville, residents have been asked to evacuate to the north, and the traffic is flowing very well to the north, up to the Chico area. But as we look to the south, and you just saw Doug in the traffic around Yuba City, residents have been asked to evacuate to the south and to the west. And so that's where you're seeing this absolute logjam of traffic. And keep in mind, it's Highway 99, but through a lot of this area, you're going through stoplights, you're going through an urban area of Marysville, Yuba City, and so that's slowing you down in addition to the volume of cars. So here we are looking a little bit further to the south, and you can see as you branch off to Highway 113, which has been recommended as an evacuation route for people from Yuba City and Marysville, 113 also very slow to the south. Highway 99, pockets of slow traffic. As you get closer to Sacramento, you're going to have some relief. Finally, you get to about Knights Landing if you're taking 113, and then you're in good company, just flowing just fine. But to the north of Knights Landing, you're going to hit traffic lights again and a volume of cars. Now, some people might be taking Highway 65 as an alternate route. North of Wheatland, the southbound traffic, very heavy. Those areas of red you see, that's to be expected. But once you get down a little bit closer to Lincoln and Rockland, you're just fine. The urban areas around Sacramento, the city itself, traffic is flowing beautifully. It's really where you just saw Doug, directly around Marysville, Yuba City, and to the south of Marysville, Yuba City. That is where we are seeing the heaviest traffic from all of this.
Right now, 15 minutes away from the next presser that we're going to have. So hopefully we'll have some important updates for you from the Department of Water Resources. Again, that's at 9 o'clock. We're going to try to run that live for you as that happens. In the meantime, I want to give you some information that we got from the last press update, which was at 6 o'clock. What we heard from Butte County officials, from emergency officials, was that the erosion that was happening from the water right at that emergency spillway was at a much slower pace than what they originally anticipated earlier this afternoon, which is very good news. Christina just mentioned that water has receded in a significant way. So again, good news there. The plan earlier today, when at 4:30, the Department of Water Resources issued these evacuations, warning people that within the hour they could potentially see a break. That was intention. That was a warning that they wanted people to get their attention, and they said what we heard over and over again was just to be safe. They wanted to be safe and not sorry, and to get people to evacuate as quickly as they could out of some of those problem areas. But again, the erosion not happening as quickly as they expected it to. That is good news. Hopefully we'll hear better news at 9 o'clock in just 13 minutes. But we're monitoring all this for us kind of, as new information comes into the newsroom.
And we're just learning, too, that Sacramento Fire is sending a crew to the Oroville area as part of the swift water rescue response. We're being told it is precautionary at this time. But once again, Sac Fire sending personnel up to the Oroville area. Let's talk about evacuations. We have Mark Dembski standing by in the newsroom with updates on that. Mark.
Yeah, good evening, Nikki. Good evening, Joe. I just want to follow up a little bit on the information that you had mentioned a little bit earlier, Nikki, about coming to us from Butte County about the 9 or so hotels that are confirmed to be full at this time. Butte County also tweeting out that Rolling Hills Casino RV Park has several spaces left. They will also accept large animals. So at this time, again, Butte County just tweeting out Rolling Hills Casino RV Park that has several spaces left and will accept large animals. You're looking, though, at also some information, again, about the list of hotels that are confirmed full at this time in Butte County. I do want to mention that there is a new evacuation shelter that is set up now at the Nevada County Fairgrounds. The address is 11228 McKerney Road in Grass Valley. We are told that if you're heading that way, to use Gate 1. Again, a new evacuation shelter just mentioned moments ago. Nevada County Fairgrounds, 11228 McKerney Road. That is, of course, in Grass Valley. Again, use Gate 1. Gate 1. We also have an unconfirmed report just moments ago that the Yuba County Jail in Marysville has been evacuated. Again, that is unconfirmed by our sources here at Fox 40 at this time, but we are hearing the Yuba County Jail in Marysville is being evacuated. That goes with information we gave you about 25 minutes ago that the Butte County Jail as well has been evacuated. That information at least was confirmed. And I do want to mention to our friends in Placer County, Rockland just tweeting out not too long ago that they have no impact at this time because of the situation in Oroville. Again, no impact for Rockland. In fact, the entire Placer County has no evacuation orders under it at this time. That's the latest I have from the newsroom. Mark Dembski, we'll send it back to you, Nikki and Joe.
All right, Mark, thank you. And just another quick update on some evacuation shelters. 3 churches now in Butte County have announced themselves as evacuation centers. The Neighborhood Church of Chico, that's at 2801 Notre Dame Boulevard. St. John's Episcopal Church, 2341 Floral Avenue, and Paradise Alliance Church, and that's at 6491 Clark Road. Those 3 churches are now also being used as evacuation centers. That was just from the Butte County Sheriff's Office.
And we're waiting on a press conference that's expected to happen in about 10 minutes. We're going to take a quick break. We'll have more breaking news coverage for you on the other side.
At Fox 40, we care about our neighbors, all 3.7 million of you. That's why we're in your neighborhood, highlighting what's important and positive in your community.
What I will do is
inches, and of course if you get some rain on top of it, you're not going to see 37 inches of water coming down from there. The snowpack actually acts like a sponge sometimes, so it can actually absorb some of that rainfall, but of course it will release a little bit of that liquid, so always a huge concern when you're getting rain on top of the snowpack. And the snowpack typically peaks right around April 1st, so we're not just going to lose all that snowpack at once. We really don't start to see big melt with the snowpack until April, May, and into June and July, but still, anytime you get rain on top of that snowpack, you're going to see some big releases of water. Now we have to switch over to this forecast model because the one we were just showing only goes out 72 hours. But you'll notice with this forecast model, the main cold front begins to move in by Thursday morning. That will drop some very heavy rain, especially for those upslope locations, the Orville drainage area, and even for the Shasta drainage. We're going to be seeing a lot of water coming into Lake Shasta as well. That system starts to depart off to the east and southeast, and then we're tracking another system by Friday. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this system, a lot of forecast models have it going a little bit further off to the south, so we might not see as much rain with that second system, but we could see another system moving in by next week, and this is 1:30 on Sunday. Now take a look at this. This is the 6-day forecast precipitation, and this is from the California-Nevada River Forecasting Center. And keep a close eye on the Orville drainage. Everywhere you see that orange color right there, it's about 2 to 3 inches, and that's liquid equivalent. Of course, some of this will fall in the form of snow, and then as you get closer to those reds, that's 3 to 4 inches of liquid equivalent. So we are expecting some heavy rainfall, and this goes all the way through 4 a.m. on Saturday morning. So that actually does not take into account the next system coming in possibly on Sunday. That's still about 7 days out. Things can change, but forecast models are locked onto that system coming in on Wednesday and Thursday. So you can almost count on that rain moving in. Threat Tracker is still very concerned with the river levels through the next couple of days, even if we don't see any big issues with the emergency spillway, because they're doing huge releases. 100,000 cubic feet per second right now at Lake Orville and 70,000 cubic feet per second at Shasta and Keswick, and we may need to bump these numbers as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. And Jerry and Brent, I'm going to toss it back to you if you have any more of the latest information on Lake Orville and the Orville Dam. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Rob. We are coming up on a press conference in a few minutes. We do want to let you know that I checked the Tehama District Fairgrounds Facebook page, and they have notified an hour ago we are open to all evacuees. So we do want to, they said they called us to let us know, but I wanted to get that in. Right now, Christina Davies is one of our reporters, is out. She has been driving on the roads in Oroville, and she is off of Highway 70 right now. Christina, what are you seeing from the evacuation?
Hey, Brent. So I actually drove through Oroville just a few minutes ago, and it was a little bit of an eerie feeling driving through because there, most people have evacuated, so there were not many cars driving around. There were mainly just law enforcement vehicles and other officials just driving around with their lights on. It just looked like they were patrolling. Even right now off Highway 70, where I'm parked, law enforcement vehicles are just driving back and forth with their lights on. So it's a bit of an eerie feeling almost. And then also up on higher ground, closer up on higher ground, there's actually people stopped at like the gas stations and on the side of the road. Those are the people who didn't go to evacuation centers. They're just leaving it out right there.
Christina, we appreciate it. We hope you're staying safe, and we do know that it's good to know there are authorities that are out there keeping an eye on businesses and so on, because You certainly don't want to see any issues. We're looking right now at a live picture here, Christina, of some of the movement and the loading of large boulders to be dropped into the Feather River area. Any other notes that you need us to take before we hit to a break? Christina? Okay, so we've lost.
I did not hear you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We just wanted to say if there was any more that you'd heard from authorities that you want us to share, or advice that you've seen driving around before we get a break.
Oh, no, just real quick. When Taylor and I were at the visitor center, we did see helicopters going by, and we were told that those were the helicopters that were dropping off the boulders into near the spillway.
Okay, thank you very much, Christina. We're going to be hitting, we know there's going to be a press conference coming up, so we want to get ready for that. We mentioned a moment ago that the Tehama County District Fairgrounds are open. That's good news. And we were told earlier that it was not open, but the fairground officials have gotten in touch with us. They have verified, and we're just glad to get that information out. They are open. They have been open. You are welcome out there, so that's another place for folks to go.
Now, if you need more information about the evacuations, we have a new section on our mobile app. If you don't have it already, search for KRCR in your phone's app store.
We'll have the latest alerts and information you need to know to keep your family safe throughout the night. A news conference scheduled. It's been pushed back to 10 o'clock, I guess. Oh, it is 9 o'clock, so it will be coming up shortly. 10 o'clock somewhere, I guess.
But we're going to take a break right now.
Yeah, we're going to take a break right now. We'll bring you the very latest when we come back.
Cal OES, Sarah Zendenom, Fox 40 News.
All right, Sarah, now I know you mentioned that they are monitoring traffic. I'm just wondering, have you heard anything about a plan to sort of ease some of those traffic issues that they're having?
Well, as I mentioned, Cal OES is in contact with the California Highway Patrol at this time, but we haven't been told of any traffic plans or anything like that. Obviously, it's still, as I mentioned, information gathering stage. So once they get the information and can relay it to us, we'll relay it right back to you, Joe and Nikki.
All right, Sarah, thank you very much for that. Also, as Sarah mentioned, CHP now taking part in this. This is a very multi-jurisdictional effort right now to not only clear some of these areas, but to sort of facilitate as traffic moves in and out. Now, CHP, we're learning, has deployed additional staff to personnel in Butte, Yuba, and Sutter counties. That's in addition to the information that you just heard there from Sarah.
And we have a traffic update for you right now. This is from Caltrans. A couple of new closures we want to tell you about. This is southbound 70 at 149, southbound 149 at 99, and northbound 99 at Marysville. Those are all closed. Right now, Caltrans is working on opening both sides of northbound 70. So again, we're going to go through these again. I know it's a lot. Southbound 70 at 149, southbound 149 at 99, and northbound 99 at Marysville. Those are all closed, and right now crews are working on opening both sides of northbound 70.
And want to mention that if you either know or are in contact with people who are evacuating right now, just ask that, they be patient. There are going to be major delays. We're talking about within a small area, 130,000 people that have already been evacuated. So obviously there are going to be traffic issues. Want to get you right back to the dam itself. Ben Deasy's live for us there. Ben, what can you tell us about what you're seeing now?
Okay, we don't have Ben right now. Let's get to an update from CHP headquarters, because we're being told that CHP has deployed additional staff to work with emergency personnel in the Orville Dam area. That's Butte, Yuba, and Sutter County. So that update coming from CHP headquarters. But we've been talking about the traffic mess as people are trying to get out of the area, listen to these evacuation orders. We were talking to one of our coworkers, Lindsay, who said that she got out pretty quickly, but once she did, she noticed that there were a long line of cars behind her.
Yep, and especially, we just saw not too long ago Doug Johnson in Yuba City talking to a number of drivers. Obviously, it's frustrating.
Right.
You have to evacuate your home. You're in traffic for, he said, 3 hours. People were stuck there. So, just be patient. Expect those delays. It's going to happen. We do have Ben Deasy now, who is live for us at the dam right now in Oroville. Ben, what are you seeing? What's the latest?
Yeah, Joe, Nikki, it may be a little hard to discern on your screen right now, but what you are looking at live is a helicopter hovering over the area of concern, hovering over both the spillway and the emergency spillway, both of which has sustained massive structural damage in this crisis. It is shining a very powerful spotlight on those two spillways, looking for the damage, trying to appraise the situation. We don't know if that's one of the helicopters that might be used in this airlift plan that has been floated by the Department of Water Resources. I do know, however, that a number of helicopters have been circling the area as they have been filling these massive bags of boulders. Again, the idea being that they might hook one of those bags to the bottom of a helicopter. That helicopter would take that material, those massive rocks, to the breach in the spillway in the area to the west of the dam and try to fill in some of that breach. So far, none of the bags have been lifted up, but they have been furiously filling these bags over the past hour or so, and there are dozens upon dozens now on standby. And as you look at this, the image is different from the last time I broadcast to you live here from the top of the dam. You can see that all of the vehicles, the emergency vehicles, the trucks, and much of the heavy construction equipment, except for those engaged in filling the bags right now, have been cleared. It looks to us like they may be making room for one of those helicopters to come into this area, hook onto one of those bags, and indeed execute the plan, bring that bag to where it is needed in the breach. Now, we have unconfirmed reports from Mather that Black Hawk helicopters from the National Guard have been scrambled and deployed to this scene. We don't, again, know if that's the case, but we do have unconfirmed reports that that has happened. We also have unconfirmed reports that CAL FIRE Hueys have been put on standby to also assist if needed in this operation. But this operation, on the ground at least, is full steam ahead as we speak, as those bags get filled, bag after bag. And just look at the size of the boulders we are talking about here. Just amazing to conceptualize those being lifted by air, brought over to the dam, and deposited in the places where erosion, as that water floods down those spillway and the emergency spillway and erodes the hillside, causing some structural concerns at the Orville Dam and the spillway releases. Just amazing to conceptualize those boulders being plucked from the ground, brought to that area, and placed in the flow of water to try to shore these structurally compromised spillways up.
Yeah, Ben, this is a really complicated effort here. I know you were out there as soon as the story broke. We sent you out that way, so you've been there for quite some time. Can you give us a sense of just how long and how much of an effort it was to get all of this done and even started, and then to get the helicopter up in the air?
Well, this was underway when we first arrived a few hours ago now, and the activity has only picked up. In fact, you can see over here another caravan of these boulder trucks bringing in more material, and this has been the case. Truck after truck comes in, dumps the boulders onto the pad here, the parking lot above the Orville Dam, and then heads off to get another load. Just a massive amount of material being brought in, and air activity has definitely picked up. We're seeing and hearing helicopters all over the area. Right now, they appear to be looking at the areas of interest, those spillways that are damaged. They're hovering over those spillways right now, have not yet headed this way, but we expect that should happen really any time now that they have cleared this parking lot, created a room for those helicopters to hook into the bags that they're filling.
All right, Ben, thank you very much for that. I want to send it over now to Mark Dembski, who's got another update for us in the newsroom. Mark, what are you learning?
Yeah, good evening, Joe and Nikki. As you can imagine, a lot of local agencies are being sent to the Oroville area. Nikki, I know you had mentioned that Sacramento Fire had tweeted out they were sending personnel that way just about 15 minutes ago. We got confirmation that the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department has confirmed they are sending almost 70 deputies to assist in the Oroville area and assist, of course, with that situation. They also say that there is going to be no impact to their patrol area down our way right now. I do want to also mention that the Rolling Hills Casino RV Park is the latest place that you can go for evacuees, and this place in particular because they will accept large animals. So they have several spaces left. That, according to Butte County, again, the Rolling Hills Casino RV Park, accepting large animals, several spaces left at this time. And another shelter situation opening up at the Nevada County Fairgrounds. I mentioned that it was on, I had the wrong road the last time. It's actually at 11228 McCourtney Road, 11228 McCourtney Road. That is in Grass Valley. That is the latest in Nevada County as far as the fairgrounds is concerned. That is a brand new evacuation center. And again, Joe and Nikki, the information that we got a little bit ago, that the Yuba County Jail in Marysville is being evacuated at this time. That goes with information we had earlier that the Butte County Jail, inmates, of course, being moved to other local jails in the area. That's the latest from the newsroom. Mark Dembski, we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Mark, thanks so much. And I think you touched on this, but I just want to reiterate that Rolling Hills Equestrian Center, they have 300 stalls available for people looking to house their livestock, for horses. They said to give them a call. Their number 916-826-1074. Once again, if you have horses that you need to find shelter for, the Rolling Hills Equestrian Center has 300 stalls available right now.
All right, important to note because not all of the shelters, at least that we've heard, have accommodated for animals. So, yeah, important to take note of. All right, we're going to send it out right now to Eric Rucker, who's live for us in Marysville. Eric, I know you've been tracking down some people who were mid-evacuation as well. What are you seeing now?
You know, to be honest, we've been stuck in traffic in downtown Marysville like thousands of other people for the last hour or so. Let me try to do my best traffic in downtown Marysville. What you're looking at right there is the line that is trying to presumably get onto 20 or go south of Marysville. That is southbound 70. All the people that we were following for the last hour are the ones basically for miles and miles and miles, bumper to bumper, as they head down eastbound 20. So these are people who are heading in the general direction of Grass Valley. We've already heard a lot of hotels, probably all of them, filled for the evening there. The situation, although it looks really bad right now, it has gotten significantly better in the last hour or so. The major reason for that, at least, is because we think on the majority of the people have finally finished up and or moving out. So this was probably more or less the last wave. You can still see some emergency responders and some law enforcement down on the corner there. That's B Street to locals, but Highway 20 and 70 as you head north or south on it. So the issues that we saw right here at the moment have quelled. But what the big issue is going to be, and as we just showed you, coming southbound on 70, and then everybody that was using 20 to head east up into the foothills, up into the Grass Valley area, those are the ones that are going to be concerned. All right, so that's what we have right here. A little bit earlier on, madness in Olivehurst at a Shell gas station. When we were there were cars that were coming in off of the road by the hundreds full. And at some point, there was a lady who said that they ran out of gas. We cannot confirm that to be the issue because we saw people afterwards getting gas. But the gas station itself closed down because of flooding. We've heard that story over and over. People are trying to get the necessities that they need. However, they are unable to because places are shutting down. So a mad dash for there. We talked to a woman. She said she did this when she was a 6-year-old back in 1997, and now she has kids in her car. And she, like many, is just very scared.
Twitter right now?
Eric, thank you very much for that. We're going to send it right over to Dennis Shanahan. Dennis, kind of take us through, where we are right now in terms of what we're seeing both on the roads and with the dam itself.
Yeah, Joe, that dam and its surrounding structures, including that spillway, were built in 1968. So we're talking about a 48-year-old structure here that has just been hammered with a massive amount of water as that lake is full. So we'll take you to the weather computer and show you what we're talking about and where the concern is. Again, just a quick recap that the concern is not the dam itself. The concern earlier this week was the spillway, which you see in the center of your screen, and they have been releasing a massive amount of water down that spillway to keep the reservoir from overflowing, but even that wasn't enough. The reservoir did start to overflow, and where it overflows is this concrete structure you see to the left of that spillway. This concrete structure where you see the hand moving back and forth, that is the auxiliary spillway, which has never been used. That is key. This has never been used before. So this lake crested that level, spilled over that spillway, and down into this muddy wildland into the Feather River. And so because this had never really been tested before, they didn't know until they did it really what the full effects were going to be. And here's the effect, the erosion that caused all of this concern. has been advancing rapidly. And so that is why they said that the operation of the emergency spillway led to the severe erosion that could lead to the failure of that structure. But good news we've been hearing, they did increase the releases down this damaged spillway, the one that they can control, and that has brought the lake level down to a level that it is not spilling over this auxiliary spillway as rapidly as it was before. It is beginning to recede. So you take that pressure off of it, and you get the workers in there with those bags of rock that they're dropping, and then they can hopefully secure this damaged, compromised structure that did, they found enough damage to warrant the evacuation orders. So there is some hope, but they are not rescinding those evacuation orders at all, Joe.
All right, Dennis, thank you. Right now on the phone, we have Michelle Mazerel. She's from Marysville. She is evacuated. She has evacuated already. Michelle, are you with us?
I am.
Hi, Michelle. Can you take us through what it was like for you as all of this started to unfold?
So I received notification through an emergency broadcast system at about 4:30, and by 4:45, I had a couple of friends calling me from the Dobbins area who had been listening to some talk radio, and they also had informed me that they were evacuating down to Gridley. So we probably were able to get out of Marysville a little earlier than most. We started heading out of town by about 5:15. But by then, of course, the news had already picked it up, and it had become pretty chaotic in town. Lots of people stopping to fill up their cars, running into the little mini mart, lots and lots of traffic, and emergency personnel heading back towards Oroville.
Michelle?
So we moved to Sacramento. That was the direction we chose.
Okay. Michelle, you touched on it, but I'm wondering if you can elaborate on the sense that people had and just sort of what you saw and heard and felt from people as that evacuation was just beginning.
I think it was chaos, honestly. We had immediately gone outside and talked to our neighbors and told them that we were leaving, and they rapidly began packing their cars. We also put a few things in the car. I think it alerted other neighbors, and then we could see just neighbors up and down the street coming from all different angles, putting things in their vehicles and trying to get out of town. Myself personally, I received dozens and dozens of text messages from friends and family just checking on our well-being as they were also trying to prepare themselves and get out of town. Traffic was very, very backed up. The light would turn red, and the traffic was just backed up through the intersection. Shortly thereafter, they started pretty much closing the access, like to 20 to 70, so that it made it even more difficult for people to get around. My aunt came behind us. We came up to Sacramento to my daughter's apartment, kind of to stop and kind of regroup and decide whether or not we need to go perhaps to Auburn. And it took them probably, it's about 40 minutes normally, and it took her probably an hour and 45, maybe an hour and 50 minutes to get here. So it has just increasingly gotten bad.
Okay, well, Michelle, so glad to hear that, you at least now were able to get out. You and your family are okay. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Yes.
All right, I want to update you now. The Sacramento Office of Emergency Services just kind of did an impromptu update on Twitter via Periscope, talking about the situation, what they're looking at. And they wanted to just reiterate the fact that Sacramento County is not under any evacuation order right now. They were getting some calls about, there were some concerns about the Point Pleasant area. There were some evacuations there earlier in the week because of storm issues. This has nothing to do with what's happening at the Oroville Dam. But what they're doing right now is they're preparing to take evacuees from the surrounding counties. So they're looking at where they can put people, looking at their resources. They said they are able to take a small amount of large animals, and that's going to be at Gibson Ranch. But they said it's just a small capacity, but as soon as that they get the information on evacuations and centers, they're going to put those out. And this update came down just a few moments ago. So we'll pass that along to you once those evacuation centers open up within Sacramento County. But they just wanted to reiterate the fact that around here, we're good right now.
Okay, and Department of Water Resources also, they were set to have a press conference at 9, so we were hoping that we could get some more information. That has been moved back to 10 o'clock. So we're going to wait a little bit longer, and we'll hear finally what they have to say. I imagine, will have some important updates for us. We're also going to take a quick break right now, and we're going to continue to follow this breaking story again as it develops, as we get more into our newsroom. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
At Fox 40, we care about our neighbors, all 3.7 million of you. That's why we're in your neighborhood, highlighting what's important and positive in your community.
Give way, or they would have a problem with something breaking at the dam.
All right, well, the owner of LHS Livestock Calling in Orland is offering free livestock calling services to anyone who is being affected by the evacuation order. If you have livestock that you need help getting out of those lower parts of Oroville and downstream areas, you can call them at 936-4137. You can also go to their Facebook page for info. The page says they can call about 10 to 12 full-size cows or 20 to 30 calves depending on their weight. They're not sure how many horses they can haul, but they said they're willing to fit as many as they can. Well, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office is sending staff and are gearing up and headed to Oroville to assist in evacuations and, of course, any potential rescues that may occur.
We do want to mention, before we get to the next piece of video from Kelly Som, that the fairgrounds are not full. They just sent out a note saying that they opened another building, so there's plenty of room for evacuees to go to the fairgrounds, the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds. And
how did you find out about
My daughter called me and told me.
Daybreak anchor Kelly Som again was at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds and one of the first evacuation centers to open for Orville residents.
How did you find out about
My daughter called me and told me about we had to get out. And I have a handicapped daughter that can't walk, and the ambulance won't come in and take her.
It's a mother describing how she learned to get out and leave both of her daughters behind, one of whom, named Amy, was trapped in a wheelchair. The other daughter went to help her sister, and emergency services refused to come to their aid. The brother in the family, Phil, described the helpless feeling as the floodwaters rise around his sister's apartment, knowing they don't have the capacity to save her.
We're probably within a quarter mile of the river itself there.
You pretty concerned about Amy?
From where, yeah. We don't have the transportation to be able to. Because if we had, and that's one of the things we're going to try to look into, is get a van that's wheelchair equipped.
And we will try to update you on that dire situation for that family. We hope the very best for them. Again, that was Kelly Som reporting from the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds, just one of many evacuation centers set up for residents close to the floodwaters.
Now, as most people leave, we are getting a list of all the Chico hotels confirmed full tonight, and that's America's Best, Courtyard Marriott, Haven Inn, Heritage Inn,
Motel 6, Ramada, the Oxford Suites, the Quality Inn, and the Regency Inn. You're saying these have all been confirmed as full. So if you're looking for a place to stay, you're probably going, and you want to go to Chico, which it seems to be where the lion's share of the evacuees are headed, you're probably going to have to go to the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds, or one of the many churches that have opened up their doors so graciously, some of them even serving hot food, providing cots and a place to stay, really doing really wonderful work. Just a great reaching out of people trying to help.
Okay, and we hear that we're going to be talking with Taylor, who is down there in Oroville tonight. Do we have her on the phone yet?
Okay, we're looking at a live shot. It appears that's off what now? Okay, that is video from Fox 40, apparently, of the spillway, but it's pulling out. Oh, I believe that's up top overlooking the actual dam itself. I might be wrong. It's difficult to see at nighttime. No, that's actually, I can't say for sure where that is. It's too dark to say. I'm not certain where that is.
Is that where they're loading up the boulders? It kind of looked like from earlier.
It might be. I think you're probably right. Yeah. Yeah, what they're doing is they're going to be putting these huge boulders and perhaps some sandbags. We're not sure at this point, but certainly we saw the boulders earlier when we had daylight, that those boulders are going to be taken by helicopter and literally dropped into the river to try to divert the water from going into, areas which could cause flooding, to try to hopefully protect people's homes and try to mitigate any type of damage that's going to be caused if flooding should ensue. And right now, it seems to be holding up fairly well, although we heard from that family. God help them. We hope that they're okay. Here, do we see a reporter from Fox 40? There they are. They're loading up those rocks, those boulders, getting ready to drop those into the river to try to improve the situation.
All right, we're going to go through some of the evacuation centers open tonight. The Elks Lodge in Paradise tells us they're opening their RV park to RV evacuees, but they have limited number of spaces, only about 15 or so. They will be accommodating people on a first-come, first-served basis. So the second location is at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds in Chico. We're continuing to update our list. Paradise Veterans Hall is open. That's at 6550 Skyway in Paradise. There's also the Paradise Alliance Church, and that's at 6491 Clark Road in Paradise. Now, they're open to RVs and trailers only. Rolling Hills RV Park at 2645 Everett Freeman Way. That's in Corning. Mike Dudley says he has about 20 spots available. The Neighborhood Church in Chico is now open. That's at 2801 Notre Dame Boulevard. Lake California Campground has 15 available spots. That's on 2197 Tom B. Drive in Cottonwood. They say to just come up to the gate. Now, if you have problems paying, the RV park said that they will pay for you. The Elks Lodge in Paradise is accepting 100 RVs, and that's at 1100 Elk Lane. And St. Nicholas Church in Paradise on 5872 Oliver Road. Now, the animal shelter at the Camelot Equestrian Park is open. That's on 1985 Clark Road in Oroville. And also in Oroville is the Banger Hall and Parks. It's open on 7500 Oro Banger Road. The Run to Win Arena is open in Chico with limited capacity for horses, and that's at 3424 Kirkwood Road. And the DeSemble Guild is open in Magalia. That's at 15247 Skyway Road. Now let's head things over to meteorologist Rob Elvington.
Oh, new numbers. All right, thank you. And these are the latest 9 o'clock numbers. And as we've mentioned for the last 15 to 20 minutes, the level is now officially below 901 feet, so it's below that emergency spillway. But all that pressure behind that emergency spillway is still there. You still have all that force of that water pushing up against that emergency spillway. You may not be seeing as much erosion with that water coming over the top, but still plenty of force. So we'll still be watching this throughout the rest of tonight and through the day tomorrow as they continue to pump all that water out of the lake. Look at the outflow right now, right around 100,000 cubic feet per second, and that's all going down that damaged spillway, also releasing, or I guess they were earlier releasing some from the power plant, but I believe most of that now is just going out through that damaged spillway. Flash flood warning in place until 4:15 tomorrow afternoon. Even if we don't see any big releases from the emergency spillway, the damaged spillway is still releasing 100,000 cubic feet per second, so the river is still running very high and fast. We'll zoom in a little bit closer to the dam. Again, there's the dam right there. It's an earthen dam. That's not what we're concerned with. We're not concerned with the primary dam. It's the emergency spillway right here. There's the spillway that they've been releasing on, of course, throughout the entire season once those lake levels started to get really high. They discovered the hole right there on that spillway, but now, of course, they have to release on that spillway, even with that hole being there, because they have to drop that lake because we have snow up in the mountains and we have more rain moving in through the rest of this upcoming week and, of course, through the rest of this wet season. We have to make it all the way through May at least. Sometimes we can even see storms as late as early parts of June. So we still have plenty of the wet season left. Again, there's the emergency spillway. So that's the big problem right now, that all that water eventually coming down that hillside into the river. We'll zoom back out. Again, that's the area that we're concerned about. There's the Feather River. Anytime that water gets above the banks, it's going to go into the lowest lying area. So you're going to have that water spreading out from the river. Flash flood warning again still through 4:15 tomorrow. We also have a flood warning in place for all areas shaded in green. That goes through 9:15 tomorrow, and that's due to all that runoff coming down from the higher elevations. Still plenty of rain, even snow melt. Now let's take a look at this. I just put this graphic together here in the last 5 to 10 minutes. Everywhere you see a dot, that is what we call a SNOTEL site. It is an automated site in the mountains that tracks the liquid equivalent of the snowpack. Look at this one right here at Pilot Peaks. This is an elevation of about 6,800 feet. and that has 48 inches of liquid equivalent stored in that snowpack right now. Bucks Lake, at an elevation of about 5,700 feet, has about 37 inches of liquid equivalent stored. Of course, this doesn't usually peak until right around April 1st, and then it slowly starts to melt out all the way through the spring and into the summer season. So even with rain falling on top of it, you're not going to lose all of that at once. You can even get some of that rain that gets soaked up into that snowpack, but even with some of these warm storms coming in, you still lose a little bit of that snowpack, so you still have a huge concern with all that runoff. There's a look at Precision Cast. We'll head all the way into this upcoming Wednesday. Again, we're tracking dry weather through the day tomorrow, through the day on Tuesday, and even into Wednesday afternoon. Most of the rain staying off to the west of the Orville drainage area, but we'll start to see a little bit more of that rain approaching by 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. If you look further off to the west, there's the main cold front. That's still offshore, and that's where you're going to find the heaviest rain. Another thing you'll notice with Precision Cast, not seeing a whole lot of snow. We've got a warm air mass in place, so we're tracking some pretty high snow levels through the day on Wednesday with any of that precipitation moving in. But as that cold front moves in on Thursday, that will have some colder air moving in from out of the northwest, so that will help to drop those snow levels. So that's some good news, because if it's falling in the form of snow, it doesn't run off. It gets stored in the mountains. Of course, that'll be a problem later on in the season as it does start to melt, but at this point, we want that precipitation stored in the mountains in the form of snow. That's the cold front. Again, this is Thursday morning. That cold front starts to move off to the east and southeast, and then we start to look off to the west towards our next storm system. Most of our forecast models are showing that the worst of this storm system actually staying off to our south, closer to central and southern California, but you'll notice we're on the northern edge, so we're still getting a little bit of that precipitation from that system on Friday. And then heading into this weekend, it looks like another cold front will move in. If you look off to the west, we've got a big wave train of storm systems. The jet stream is almost directly west to east going over the Pacific. So anything that's out there eventually gets grabbed by the jet stream and tossed right into California. This is from the California-Nevada River Forecasting Center. I typically usually do my own precipitation forecast, but I just wanted to get something up on screen so you could see it. Their forecast, where you see the orange in the Orville drainage, that's about 2 to 3 inches of liquid equivalent. Of course, some of this comes in the form of snow. And then where you see the red right there, that is 3 to 4 inches of liquid equivalent. So if you head into the lower elevations, that's mainly all rain. So that eventually works its way into Lake Oroville. Threat tracker through the next few days, very concerned about, of course, the emergency spillway at Lake Oroville, but also the Sacramento River. Right now at Shasta and Keswick dams, they're releasing about 70,000 cubic feet per second. There are low-lying parts of Redding that are underwater right now. If you head all the way down through the Sacramento River into Tehama County and then right on the Glen Butte County line, also seeing very high river levels. So
thank you very much, Rob.
Yeah, we are standing by waiting for a press conference, which is going to take place in about 30 minutes over at the Lake Orville Visitor Center by the Department of Water Resources to give us the very latest information, and probably Corey Honey, the sheriff, will be there. We'll also have a live report from Taylor Torregano, who's been covering this story from the get-go, from day one when that poll we first saw it back, I guess it's just been a few days ago, back on Wednesday. But we're going to take a break right now. We'll have all of that right after this.
9 hotels that were all full at this point. And I know Ben Deasy had been talking about the helicopters dropping the rocks on the spillway. We just got word from Sac Metro Fire tonight that they have deployed their helicopter to assist in that situation. Again, picking up large rocks, boulders, dumping them onto the spillway to help the water flow, help slow down the water flow anyway. That's the latest from the newsroom. Mark Dembski, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you. Just got another update from Marysville Police. Again, we've been monitoring the traffic as evacuees are trying to leave that area. What we're hearing now is that if anyone's unable to leave the area, can't make it out, you can make your way to Habitat for Humanity. It's on 202 D Street. Police are setting up a staging area there. So again, if you can't make it out of the area, Habitat for Humanity at 202 D Street. You can be there. They're going to be providing buses out of the city for a number of people if you can't get out on your own.
And we're really talking about an all-hands-on-deck situation. We just found out that CHP Truckee is en route to assist with evacuations in the Oroville area. So Truckee joining several agencies, not only in Northern California, but around the state. We're seeing Long Beach. We're seeing crews from the LA area that are going to come up here and that are going to help, especially with the evacuations.
Yeah. And we're talking about dozens and dozens from Sac County as well. So a big effort there from everybody.
Can't see the roadway, it's best just to find a different alternate route. Again, here is that flash flood warning. This is going into effect through 4:15 Monday, so a good almost 24 hours worth, and we're going to continue to keep an eye on this. Even though it's dry right now, we're seeing a lot of runoff working its way through with the warmer temperatures we saw earlier this afternoon. I mentioned earlier about a foot above the emergency spillway was the lake level. We are well above capacity, around 101%. In fact, we're about 33,000 acre feet above where the lake should be. It's not just Butte County. We're seeing these flooding potentials across the north state. That's that area shaded in green. That's an aerial flood warning for local creeks and streams through 9/15. So we've been watching this potential and alerting you to those dangers for the past several days. This is just now putting it to the next extreme, and that's why the flash flood warning is in effect for portions of Butte County. Threat tracker, I went ahead through Monday. I kept it in a medium because of the potential for flooding. We're going to keep an eye even for Tuesday. We might have to elevate that depending on how quickly water levels may or may not subside. But all attention afterwards is going to switch back into Wednesday. Even though we're seeing a break right now, there's a whole nother system set up, and it's going to be working its way in late Wednesday, and it could bring another round of very unsettled weather pattern, not only to finish the work week, but heading into the weekend as well. So there's just going to be a lot more water potentially working its way into Lake Orville, which could continue to keep this situation at a danger level for a little bit of extra time. Sounds like Jerry has a latest update. We're going to go ahead and send things back over to him.
Thank you so much. This just came in. We want to mention this. Evacuations have been extended south from Oroville all the way to the Sutter County border. On the line, we have U.S. Congressman Doug LaMalfa. Congressman, first of all, anything new you can tell us that we don't know yet?
We're all, I think, on the same wavelength of information here right now. I think just the main thing is that people keep their heads clear and move in a direction that makes the most sense. Going towards Chico isn't the best move for everybody. For some, it's go east, go up the hill. If you're higher than the elevation of the dam, you're going to be in a good place. So if you're on the east side of Oroville, Palermo, Honcut, Bangor, any of that, just go up the hill. And if you're maybe in Gridley or Biggs, you could consider going west on 162. Just go west towards Calusa. If you get across a couple of those levees, you know, past Cherokee, Butte Creek, all that, you know, whatever. I mean, if this comes to the worst, okay? I mean, people just need to keep cool. I've heard stories about crazy driving in traffic. You know, an orderly thing is going to work better for everybody, so we don't have emergencies on top of emergencies. So, but you know, I'm hearing the same things that they're really worried about that emergency portion of the spillway, and that means a wall of a lot of water behind that without there. That's hundreds of thousands of acre feet all at once. So if anybody's not taking it serious, it's better take it serious because we're getting warnings.
Live coverage of the
I've been trying to kind of get people thinking about a plan just without a panic mode. But panic doesn't do anybody any good. So think about where you are, head up a hill, you're towards the east side,
a half hour ago that
or west. South isn't necessarily good, but north you can make it through Chico. I'm looking at 99 right now. It's almost a parking lot. Highway 70 on the pictures I saw isn't doing a whole lot better coming out of Oroville, so maybe when it gets up there a ways it's okay. But if you have alternatives to get up, go up 70 towards someplace up there too. If you're higher than the elevation of the lake, you're in a good spot. So that's my opinion, and maybe isn't counter to. But, you know, it's just, I've irrigated a lot of water over the years, you know what I mean?
Yes. Mr. LaMalfa, have you had a chance to speak with anybody in the federal government about this? And do you suspect that the federal government, will you be making any kind of requests to get some type of help in here in case this thing worsens even more than it has?
We'll be definitely going for an emergency declaration at both state and federal level. We had a 2-hour briefing yesterday before this got worse. Things looked pretty stable then, but the emergency portion of the spillway is kind of until now. So what we're going on here is that the fellows at the meeting reminded me this is a 1957 design, and so that some of the things that they do more modern, they weren't necessarily doing back then on the spillway, and maybe that applies, to the main spillway as well as to the emergency one. So, we're kind of in ground here. So, but we talked about it. Army Corps of Engineers responsible for 20% of the dam, 20% of the funding back in the day. And so they have a role in this, so the federal government will have a role, and we'll be sure to push that as soon as we can. We'll be getting the word to President Trump that you need funding back in the day, help us with this declaration and whatever it's going to take here. So we, have a role, and we'll be it's new ground for all of us, obviously.
Congressman Doug LaMalfa, District 1 U.S. Representative, Congressman for the U.S. House of Representatives. I do need to ask you, did you, I don't know if you had a chance to speak to Bill Conley, who was somebody who's on the same side of the aisle as yourself. He has been unabashed in being extremely critical of the Department of Water Resources in their handling of this. Just a few hours ago, they said that this would not be necessary. And for the entire week. Bill Conley. Bill Conley, the Butte County Supervisor.
I was up at the briefing there, and I don't think you can necessarily point the finger at DWR for the way the dam was designed and constructed back in the 50s.
McBride, I see your messages.
I ran the numbers on it, and
send it to me
on
Twitter.
December 8th, the lake was
Anyone that
only
has any
40%
messages to me
full.
that
Okay.
or any regulars,
so
send
it
it
was
to me to
1.4
Twitter.
million
That's
acre
the
feet.
best way to get
Full capacity right now is
anything to me
3.5
while I'm
million. So
live.
there was 60% of the lake to go 2 months ago, and they've been letting water out. And there's always that balance between keeping a lake full and but by no means would we want to fill it now, because we have all the way when you're talking water storage and water usage, that stuff happens after April 1st.
It doesn't say specifically.
So I think they've been doing things pretty well. Rumors about the spillway.
The capacity that it had before it broke. Before it broke.
The story on this is going to come out after time.
But it has a total capacity of 3,537,577 acre feet.
Heading north or heading east or heading west.
We all agree with that.
Water.
I wouldn't join the crowd on 99 necessarily. It's pretty slow moving. It can see it, and the cars are going about 15 miles an hour. And the copter view I saw on 70 coming out of Oroville on near Nelson Avenue wasn't looking so hot either. So just use your best judgment on if you're close to a high altitude on the east side of the valley. Just run up the hill. As long as you're above the lake, you're going to be all right. So, okay.
I want to ask you one more question, Mr. LaMalfa,
sure.
and that has to do with.
And I'm talking about the reservoir.
The new administration has talked about the need for new infrastructure, and to update the infrastructure.
But the dam's volume
is this event going to resonate not just for Californians, but for other maybe
77,619,000 cubic yards
nationally?
Yeah, Jerry, I think it will resonate. We're talking about old infrastructure that is
for those just now tuning
in a bad way,
bridges
and
covering
highways
right now
and other things that are public safety, and I imagine
Orville, California, with the dam spillway that
we're
is
not going to let that happen, but
expected
this is really
to have its failure within
unforeseeable situation. The dam was engineered the way it was, and
earlier reports within the next half hour. So
everything according to independent inspections. This is the preliminary start. I'm not going to be a spokesman for DWR or Army Corps.
Press conference that was supposed to take place about 5 minutes
the way
ago.
They're supposed to, and
that will be
they've
going
reacted
live
as
very
deftly
soon
as they can during this crisis here, with letting as much water out as the spillway can handle, the main spillway, and being ready for the emergency spillway. So, blame game. We need to give them a fair chance at how this is going to come out in the investigation. But that all said, today, tomorrow, the next 72 hours are one of being prepared for whatever the emergency could be.
Mr. LaMalfa, we want to get this information. We just got it in. Highway 99 is now entirely northbound heading out of Orville. No traffic is being allowed in southbound lanes. Those southbound lanes are now taking care of all of the massive traffic, which you alluded to get people out of Orville.
They're still coming southbound, south of 149 5 miles, and and such. They're still going past the Nelson Avenue gravel road heading south. I don't know where they think they're going, but someone needs to be cutting them off at 149 or something up there. And
that's about a
send them in
5-mile
direction.
stretch between 99 and Highway 70, and you're saying that people are still traveling on 149 heading toward Oroville?
No, not going south on 99, south of south of Cycle Land. So I see there's still a trickle of cars, and I don't know. Again, there needs to be a good reason to continue south, I would think, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
So CHP probably needs to intercede up at somewhere just south of 149 and direct them. Well, we need to be doing a U-turn, really. So unless you're going to shoot up 70 towards, like Quincy or something like that.
There might be some people heading up Paradise, perhaps. That maybe is why they're keeping that open. That could be. At this point, obviously, we don't know. It's just such of a dynamic situation. Things are just moving so quickly, so fast. Before we sign off, we want to thank you for being with us. Any other things that you might want to add that I did not ask you about that you think is important to mention?
It's just pay attention to what our Butte County Sheriff Honey's been really on top of this, and so listen to what those folks are saying, and keep following along. And this is not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be, at least 72 hours. So people should be prepared for hunkering down for a little while somewhere else. So it's just a good precaution, and I hope they've been thinking about it ahead of time. Our office has been trying to, in a calm way, say, think about your plan, think about the things you need to do. So if the go sign comes, then you're ready. So this is definitely very serious, and I hear folks saying, nope, we're staying in our house. So well, you better assess where you are, and what that risk is. So it's wise to take that extra precaution and spend a little time in prayer on it too. Okay.
A prayer doesn't hurt, that's for sure. Thank you so much, Doug LaMalfa.
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it very much. Congressman Doug LaMalfa. And we are just moments away from a news conference by the Department of Water Resources being held in Oroville. We understand that Sheriff Corey Honey will be there. And is that Kevin Allison? Kevin Allison from CAL FIRE will also be speaking. And I think most people, maybe we could take that live shot right now if we can. I don't know if we can as they start to get set up. They might be, this is not the live shot though. This is though a live shot from obviously it appears to be, I'm not exactly sure of the lay of the land there, but you can see just water, perhaps, I believe that's the channel heading out along the Feather River. Yeah, that's what it is. So that's not flooding into any land that's not supposed to have water there. It doesn't appear. So again, let's see if we can get a live shot if we can to the news conference. We want to make sure. Oh, we do not have a live shot yet, but we are working to get that. We understand that Corey Honey, the Butte County Sheriff, who had actually been preparing for this as early as when I talked to him on Thursday, said that they had this thing ready to go in case this would happen.
For those just now tuning in, we are doing live coverage right now
said,
of the Oroville
and other people that we've spoken with.
The Oroville,
nobody ever expected
the Orville Dam
that this was going to
Spillway
happen.
that is expected to fail now.
This is no longer a live shot. This is video from perhaps earlier tonight.
There is
of water streaming down
live press
Feather
conference
River.
that's supposed to be taking place any minute now.
And we should mention again,
we should be getting some more information from
there.
officials once that press conference happens.
And we are working right now to get that news conference for you, and has not started yet. So we expect Corey.
QuickBooks introduces Rodney. He has a new business teaching lessons. Rodney wanted to know how his business was doing, so he got
north. So there was a lot of folks getting here. We were able to find this location about an hour ago, and it was just starting to fill up. We pulled over to the side of the road and
to Sutter County as well. So it's so hard to predict what's going to happen here, because the words we've been receiving from officials with the Department of Water Resources have been up until just 4:45, up until 4:15, 2 hours ago. Everything that we have heard was this scenario was very unlikely to take place. Up until just, again, an hour and 15 minutes ago, what we had heard was that this was not going to be necessary. But here we are, water gushing out at 100 cubic feet per second down the badly damaged spillway. At this point, I'm not even sure if you could call it a spillway at this point. We want to mention that the Elks Lodge in Paradise is open to RV evacuees. There's just 15 open spaces. Got to be honest, those spaces are probably been taken by now, but perhaps not. If you're in that area, you might want to give them a look. The place to go for certain, and it's going to probably be crowded. Kelly Som is there right now. She's our daybreak anchor on KRCR, News Channel 7. The Silver Dollar Fairgrounds, there are people heading over there right now. And there are other evacuation sites as they become known. When they become known, we have been getting reports, but we have to get them confirmed before we put them out to make sure that they're for evacuation centers that are definitely up and running and they're not just people maybe sending out false information. So, which one? Which county? Yuba County, we're just told, is now evacuating as well. So now we have Oroville, Butte County, and Sutter County all being evacuated at this point. And as evacuation sites become available, we will list them on our website, krcrtv.com. At this point, I don't know whether any new evacuation sites have been added to the list, but as they do, we will certainly add them to our website. Let's go over to Jeremy Linder now in the First Alert Weather Center. What can you tell us about the weather conditions right now? We could be in for some more trouble even in the middle of the week coming up.
Yeah, that's right, Jerry. Even though things are fairly calm right now, we are tracking a whole nother system that's expected to come through by late Wednesday. And that's just going to bring more rain to what's already been a very saturated North State. With the dry conditions today, what we were looking is all that runoff to make its way into Lake Orville. Now we're trying to see the uncontrolled potential of water that's going to be flowing through the river. So that's why we do have the flash flood warning that's in effect through 4:15 Monday afternoon. 100,000 cubic feet per second. That's the equivalent of 30 Olympic-sized swimming pool in a single minute. So a lot of water that's going to be moving its way through. That's including areas around Orville, Palermo, and Gridley where the flash flood warning is in effect. Now, we're seeing some very dry conditions right now, but I want to go ahead and show you with precision counts. I'm going to walk you through what we're expecting by Wednesday. Still dry. This is Monday. Let's go into Tuesday. Just a little extra cloud cover. So this is the best time to potentially get a handle on uncontrolled water that could potentially be working its way out of that emergency spillway. By Wednesday morning, this is the next storm system that's working its way in. It's going to first remain on the coast, but by the afternoon, it's going to be working its way in towards the North State. So by 10 o'clock right there on our doorstep, we're going to work this way through, all the way through Wednesday. Thursday morning now, seeing more rainfall, even more snow potentially coming into play, and this unsettled weather pattern does persist all the way in through Sunday. So even though we're dry right now, it's going to be a whole nother issue as we start going in through the middle of the week. And I want to put things into perspective. It's not just the Feather River. We mentioned earlier about evacuations even farther south of Orville. What's happening is we have a lot of water in the Sac. We have a lot of water in the Feather River, and those two do merge. So this could be a much larger issue as you go farther downstream into areas around Sacramento County. So something we are definitely going to be keeping an eye out for, not only for the rest of today, tomorrow, but definitely for the entire work week. So I want to cover that threat tracker just one more time. I mentioned earlier, I'm keeping us in the moderate category all the way for Monday because of those high river levels. We're going to keep an eye on the potential for even Tuesday, but by Wednesday, that next storm system comes through, and that just means a lot more rain potentially working its way into the lake, and it's already very full right now. One of the reasons why all that water is now working its way into the Feather River. Jerry?
All right, thank you, Jeremy. We need to make a slight correction here. Not a slight correction, a correction. We've been talking about those 15 RV spaces over at the Elks Lodge in Paradise. It's not on Elks Lane. It's the Elks Lodge on Clark Road near Billy. Elks Lodge at Clark Road and Billy. So there are apparently, as of 6:06 when I got this call, there are still spaces available. Elks Lodge in Paradise, it's not on Elk Lane, it's actually on Clark Road. So we'll look at that fixed. It's at Clark Road. And also Silver Dollar Speed. Oh, hold on a second. Nope. Okay, we want to remind you that we're waiting on a news conference from the Department of Water Resources, which is going to take place momentarily. And we are actually going to bring in Red Weber, who's going to come in and take over for a second as we wait for the press conference to be announced. And again, this is a video of the spillway, water coming down and there's the traffic. The traffic coming toward 99, according to Congressman Doug LaMalfa, has been basically a parking lot. And of course, this is previous video, not live shots as we've been receiving earlier. And I believe we are going to take it over to KRCR weekday evening anchor, Brett Webb. What can you tell us, Brett?
Well, Jerry, I know you've been doing the yeoman's job here, and much of the information we've been funneling into you and getting it out there as quickly as we can. And I know you probably even need to catch your breath. The very latest, we're trying to confirm certain situations. There will be fairgrounds to Tehama County. We are looking to clarify. I do not yet have, I'm not able to hear in my studio, so when we do take a break or do a handoff, I'll get over on the IFB. Now, you're taking a look at the earlier helicopter footage from above the Oroville Spillway. Obviously, if you're just joining us, there was an evacuation order put in place in South Oroville and obviously in down water areas. They're expanding that. They've been telling us for several days that they've asked people to be ready. It is overloaded. You can see to the left of your screen, that is what was considered to be the emergency spillway, and it has failed. It did its job, but now we know what happens when it is overloaded for an extended period of time. Guys, I'm going to move over to the set and pull a chair over there so I can plug into what we call our IFB and hear from our producers. So keep that video rolling. This is down in Orville. What we do want you to understand, and understand very clearly, that it is not a time to panic. You are being asked to, just very clearly, you're being asked to get out, move yourself on down the road. We do want to let you know that if you are thinking that you would like to go down to 99 and help someone out of their particular home, you cannot do that. You will not be able to get on 99 you will not be able to get on 99. And right now, and Kelly Som is with us. She is live at, and tell me again, she's at, Kelly, where? She's at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds, one of a handful of evacuation areas. As I was saying before, if you're trying to go on 99, northbound only. So northbound only. And now let's go out to Facebook Live where Kelly Som is with some people there. Kelly?
They said they weren't sending anybody, any more ambulance there. They weren't sending anybody in.
How close to the river are you? Describe where you live on Mitchell Avenue.
No, that was a woman whose daughter is stuck in Oroville, has not been able to get out. They haven't been able to communicate, so they are asking for help, and we will be seeing some of that. If you do know someone, do contact them. Again, we don't believe that homes, we have no reports of severe damage to homes yet. We have no reports of injuries yet, but we do want you to understand this is not a drill. We've been told repeatedly since shortly after 4 o'clock this afternoon. Let's go back out to Kelly, who is at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds. Kelly?
When the Northway, when it collapsed, and she was working with her sister's far northern worker, trying to figure out how would we get her out of there in that situation. We don't have the transportation to be able to. Because if we'd had, and that's one of the things we're going to try to look into, is get a van that's wheelchair equipped.
Did you ever think you'd live to see the day that Oroville would be evacuating?
No. I've heard that the Earthville dams like this are a lot stronger than they. I've heard that like the Hoover Dam would probably collapse more readily than this.
And what was the drive? We're hearing that it's bumper to bumper on Highway 70 coming up here. What's the traffic like?
It was like that. We were coming over. We were by not past the Durham exit, having to slow down because of the line.
Kelly, we're going to interrupt you now so that we can go live to a press conference. Corey Honey, the sheriff, and we understand others are addressing now the media and the public live. Let's go directly to that now and listen in.
Apologies everyone for the pixelation that is coming off on their end. That is not on our end at all.
And that there wasn't an imminent danger or
again, for anyone just tuning in, that pixelation that you are currently seeing is coming off of the end of the the group that we are
engineers and
restreaming
experts
from.
from the Department of Water Resources advised that
They were having very heavy
hole was
pixelation.
eroding back towards the face of the alternate/emergency spillway at a rather significant rate. They estimated that it would reach the face of that within about an hour. And beyond that, there was significant concern that it would compromise the integrity of the spillway, resulting in a substantial release of water. Unfortunately, they couldn't advise me or tell me specifically how much time that would take. So we had to make a very, very critical and difficult decision to initiate the evacuation of the Oroville area and all locations south of that. The time frame that we were dealing with at that point was mere hours. And I couldn't risk the lives of thousands of people.
They're currently having audio issues on their end, everybody that is not on this side.
All locations south of that. The time frame that we were dealing with
They're actually having a computer.
at that point was
Wow.
sit and hope for the solution. About 10 minutes ago, another brief.
Hold on, I'm working on getting that for you right now.
We were monitoring the situation closely. The experts told me that the erosion that caused all of this concern was not advancing as rapidly as they thought. That's a very good thing. Secondly, there is a plan currently.
Yeah, they're having some major issues.
That would include using helicopters to drop back into the crevice and prevent any further. I'm told is about 2 inches of water. That is significantly down because one of the other important measures that was taken was to increase the flow of water out of the primary spillway to 100,000 cubic feet per second. That has helped reduce the level of the lake rather quickly. It is hopefully going to reduce primary spillway to 100,000 cubic feet per second. That has helped reduce the level of the lake rather quickly. It is hopefully going to reduce the pressure on that alternative/emergency spillway and stabilize the situation so that we can find a repair for it and hopefully prevent it from a complete failure. I'm going to turn it over to my counterparts in CAL FIRE, and I will add that from this point forward, we are in a unified command in terms of managing this operation. Chief?
Thanks, Sheriff. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Lawson, I'm an incident commander with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 3. Give you a brief little rundown. Sheriff is absolutely correct. We are in unified command. CAL FIRE is currently mobilized and activated on
Again, for those that
another
are
incident management team
issues
to
are
be
coming
mobilized
from
to the Chico
end
Fairgrounds.
Of those at the press conference right now. That's coming from their end.
And making sure that those are mobilized as well and staged and ready to be put to work as well. We have additional CAL FIRE command teams that are being mobilized and stood up and stand fast and ready to be activated to assist in whatever way possible. we have both the CAL FIRE Director and Deputy Director at the Sacramento Operations Center assisting and coordinating efforts from a regional perspective as well. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to the Department of Water Resources, Eric C., to give a update.
Thank you, Chief. Sheriff Honey actually provided a very good summary of the points that I was going to make about the current condition of the structures in question, the auxiliary spillway and the primary spillway. I did want to make one addition to that. We have monitors on the primary spillway. This is the gated spillway, the concrete line spillway, and they have not detected upstream migration of the head cut on that spillway. So that's another thing that we're monitoring. And with the increased flows up to 100,000 cubic feet per second, they have not detected a change in that head cut as of about 15, 20 minutes ago. That was all I had to add.
I'm currently working on getting a better stream from that press conference to view
now
to you
that
guys.
you have been briefed on what the situation is and what the rationale or reason for taking this rather extraordinary measure was, I want to tell you just a little bit about what our ongoing efforts are. So, as I told you, we declared an evacuation of the Oroville area. We sent out media releases, we sent out a mass notification, and we have deputies and other law enforcement personnel focusing on those areas of our community, first in close proximity to the river, because those would be the areas that would be affected soonest. So they are going into those areas and trying to make sure that all of those residents have been notified and
our
are
counterparts
able
from
to
California
evacuate.
Highway Patrol are working to deal with that.
Has caused a significant problem with traffic.
Here for me was that I didn't have the luxury of waiting to see if all was okay. We needed to get people moving quickly in order to protect the public and save lives if the worst case scenario did come to fruition.
We needed to get people moving.
I would just reiterate, public safety is our #1 concern in making sure that we have a well initiated, coordinated effort between the sheriff and ourselves that is being implemented.
There you go.
The other thing is we've been able to mobilize additional swift water teams that are readily available to assist where we can. And one other key component that I did leave out is we have additional CAL FIRE helicopters that are readily available both in the north and south that can be mobilized and are ready to be mobilized should we be mission tasked for additional assistance with that.
I'll just add one other thing in terms of what has the commitment support that we have gotten has been overwhelming. As you might imagine, in a scenario like this, there is a lot that has to be done very, very quickly. We've been working to do that. As we get those tasks taken care of, we can move on to other issues. But I have received, I've been in contact with the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. They are sending resources and committing to sending additional resources as this situation develops if we need it. I have been contacted by our local legislators in California, Senator Gallagher's office, and have all reached out.
And they're trying to lag on their Periscope as well.
Kind of resources. We have, of course, support of and all other safety.
All right, everyone. They are having major issues right now, trying to get this press conference out to the people.
Significantly in a very timely fashion and relieve the pressure on the spillway. I'm hopeful that the amount of water that is being released downstream will not cause significant damage. But even if that happens, this is a very dynamic situation. It's a situation that could change rapidly, and one that we're going to have to pay a very close pay close attention to. People may ask, when can we come back if the situation doesn't result in catastrophic failure? And the answer to that question is, I don't know yet, because we're going to need to assess the stability of the spillway before we allow people back in. Once we've got them out, I want to make sure it's safe to come in. And so I would ask for the public's cooperation and patience. This is certainly not something that I wanted to do, but it was something that I felt was necessary to protect the lives of thousands of people.
Quick question for Eric. How long do you think?
Again, everybody, apologies. This is the end of the live stream coming out of...
Okay, you're listening to a live feed, two live feeds actually, from DWR and the officials there down in Orville in Butte County. Just to recap, this is not what they wanted to do. It's considered to be a dynamic situation, as you may not, if you've just joined us. The Oroville Spillway, emergency spillway, is overloaded. They have both the spillway and the main spillway releasing more than 100,000 cubic feet per second, so an emergency evacuation has been called. Let's go back to the press conference as it continues.
Per second design.
Again, everyone, apologies for the video that's coming out of this press conference, that is coming out of the end of the press conference, and
well,
that
they
quality.
brought it up to, as Sheriff Honey has described, they brought the flows up to 100,000 cubic feet per second.
Yo! The press conference, hold it. Hold it. Yep. What you got to say?
Top of the auxiliary spillway, and they're continuing to, they will continue to drop the lake level down as quickly as they can.
Can you get any audio through to me?
No. Very, very horrible audio and video coming out of this press conference for those that...
These are our lands!
Are watching right now, that is at the end of those inside of the press conference.
We had a monitor that, you know, we have monitors on the main spillway, also on the auxiliary emergency spillway, and they identified this erosion feature in I think it was about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and immediately started assessing it, seeing if it was moving, and observing it. And there's they don't have any models for something like this. It happened so quickly. And so it was, you know, our engineers made their best estimate, and that was when they gave the information to Sheriff Honey.
Currently, do you have an estimate as the time as to when the lake will drop so the emergency spillway will not be activated?
I believe they said within the next hour.
That's my understanding.
That was the latest we had. And that was right before we got here, so they're assessing that right now. But that was their estimate.
Do you know what the inflow is now?
I don't off the top of my head. It was decreasing, though, I know, throughout the day.
Well, we will get you that information shortly. That's something we can readily obtain.
As you make this attempt to try to fix this and deal with this problem, there is a rainstorm predicted coming up this week. How do you balance that? How do you handle it? How do you plan with that when that clock's ticking?
Well, I think right now we're going to be, you know, going after this problem right now, and you know, we'll be. You know, we're definitely aware of that. We have, you know, hydrologists and our forecasters are looking at that too, but this is our primary focus right now.
Okay, if there's no further questions, there'll be another press conference right in this room at 9 p.m. tonight. If any of you have any questions afterwards, everybody will be available for interviews. Thank you for your time.
Okay, you were watching a live press conference down near the Orville Spillway, the Orville Dam, bringing us the very latest information. A couple of things that are important to know. If you live in Butte County 211 has informed us that they can handle your calls. They know the information. That is a great place to start. Call the 211 call center, and they can give you information as to where you, any questions that you might have if you are not sure if you're in the evacuation area. Low levels of Oroville, areas downstream have been ordered to evacuate. Law enforcement is going door to door, areas, homes and areas closest to the dam and spillway. We will bring you more as we continue our coverage of the Orville Dam spillway failure.
All right, everybody, we'll be switching over right now over to, hold on 1 second. We'll be switching right over to KCRA. Which I'll be putting on your screen right now. There is no audio coming from their broadcast at this moment. Hold on, let me double check. There is audio coming from their broadcast.
To draw down by another 10 feet. So that means that water is going to come out of the regular spillway there on the right side of the screen probably all week long at least 50 and maybe as much as 100 as they continue to draw this thing down. Because yes, we do have more active weather on the way later on this week. How much rain we may see in the Feather River Basin remains to be seen, and how much inflow we might start to see again. But I think they just want to get between now and let's say Thursday to draw that level down as much as they can. But I can't see any scenario where they're going to stop letting water go down the regular spillway anytime soon.
And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but this next rain system, I mean, is significant amounts, or we're just too far out to tell still?
Well, you know, I'm going to let Dirk answer that, because Dirk's been looking at the models closer than I have been today.
Yeah, we're looking at a series of systems right now. The forecast has that we have the first one coming in on Thursday, and then expect to have the next little one coming on Friday. The first one, we could see between a half an inch to an inch of rain, and you translate that. That's for Sacramento. Now, you translate that into the foothills, and you're talking several inches of rainfall. And so from just the first system, we're going to get a significant amount of rain in the mountains and the hills that, of course, feed into the Oroville Reservoir. And then beyond that, we have another system, like I said, on Friday. Then we have another one coming in on Sunday and Monday. And so there's these storms that are lining up. And so we are looking at the possibility of having a very similar amount of water that we did with the 3 systems that came in this past week that we had that caused a lot of this.
So, well, Dirk, let me ask you. So, again, you've looked at the stuff tonight more than I have earlier today. It looked like they might be a little bit colder than last time. So instead of, I mean, what do you think the snow levels will be? Because that's an important factor.
That is an important factor. And the first system coming through on Thursday, it looks like snow levels will be more than likely 6,000 to 7,000 feet. After that, they drop down closer to 5,000 to 6,000 feet. And so we do have some colder air with those second wave, third wave, fourth wave that's coming through. The first one, though, still looks a little warm. But so we won't have all the runoff and the snow melt that we had with this last system where it was so warm. But we are still expecting to have a lot of water with this. So even though we don't have the snow melt happening, we are going to still have a lot of water coming down the hill.
Right, but Gulston, you know, just to compare though, last week between I think Sunday and Friday, the Feather River Basin had anywhere between 12 to 18 inches of rain over the course of that week. So foot and a half of rain, plus we had snow melt. So that contributed to the huge inflows we saw for an extended period of time. So that's part of what got us into the problem here, that we saw the levels come up and then the spillway got broken. It's just been a domino effect. But if this next time the snow levels are lower, then that would reduce the amount of snow melt. So the inflows wouldn't be as high. But still, as I was saying, you know, it doesn't sound like there's going to be a scenario where we're going to stop seeing water come down the regular spillway, the broken spillway, anytime soon.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much. We do have we want to go back to the news conference. We have a sound bite that we want you to hear.
When I was advised of this hole that had formed, the engineers and experts from the Department of Water Resources advised that the hole was eroding back towards the face of the alternate/emergency spillway at a rather significant rate. They estimated that it would reach the face of that within about an hour. And beyond that, there was significant concern that it would compromise the integrity of the spillway, resulting in a substantial release of water.
So that was a quick bite of that news conference that we just watched with DWR, also folks there from CAL FIRE, a lot of different emergency services obviously working together in this. They are assessing the situation by the hour. They have local and federal safety engineers on scene working on this problem. But again, what he was explaining there is why they call that emergency evacuation, because they just didn't know how serious that erosion was, if the spillway could in fact fail. We've got all sorts of problems.
But here's the updates for that 211 information. This will help keep 911 free except for emergency calls, and that is very important at this time. If you're not sure about locations, go to our website, krcrtv.com. We're trying to keep everything updated to the minute. We're getting quite a bit of information, and you can see the 211 updates there as we are hoping to get Corey Honey. Jeremy, he's checking some of the latest levels. Now, we did hear in the press conference they're continuing to basically push as much water, let as much water as they can. They cannot control the amount of water going over that auxiliary spillway. We know that. So 100,000 cubic feet a second. We don't need any more going in, but snow melt is certainly having an effect on that, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's right, Brent. I just checked some of the latest numbers from the California Data Exchange Center, where you can track the levels at Lake Orville hourly. Finally, since we've increased those outflows to 100,000 CFS, this is twice as much as what's coming into the lake. So we're going to see levels already start to drop. In fact, we are now just over a half a foot above where that emergency spillway is at. That's at an elevation of 101. So we're just above that, and we need to drop below 901 to keep that water from spilling over. That's still the equivalent of 26,000 acre feet of water that is above capacity for Lake Orville. So we're going to continue to probably see those outflows very high, and that's why flooding is our major concern that we're keeping an eye on for. In fact, the National Weather Service did issue that flash flood warning. This is the area highlighted in red through 4:15 Monday afternoon. It's going to take a lot of water to actually let those lake levels subside. Think of it like a salad bowl. When you're filling things up, it doesn't take that much water to initially fill it up, but as you get closer and closer to the top, you need a lot more. Well, it's going to be in the reverse as far as draining it. You have to get rid of a lot of water before you see a decent drop. Of course, the lower you go, the easier those results will become. And one of the reasons why that flash flood warning is definitely still in effect through 4:15 Monday afternoon. So here's Orville. Here's the Feather River. Let me go ahead and move out of the way. Here is the dam. This is where all the water is going to be flowing as we go through the next day or so. What's happening is water will find the lowest spot, and it will go wherever it wants to go. You can't really block it. So as you start going through the Feather River, most of that is going to fan out from there. We heard earlier that areas around the river are the most prone to flooding, and if you have to evacuate, definitely head to a higher elevation. If you can go above 900 feet, which is the elevation of the lake, you'll be in a good position. But while we're dry right now, we're only seeing runoff, all attention is going to switch back over to our next storm system that could make this a whole nother issue as we go later into the week. You can see with Precision Cast already by Thursday night, that's the first wave that works its way through. A very unsettled pattern will be persisting, just like what we finished up. So this is the break right now. The next wave works its way through for late Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even for the following weekend. It's still tough a little to tell just how much rain we could get out of this system, but it's something we're definitely going to be keeping an eye out for. Definitely the officials over with the Department of Water Resources are keeping an eye on that as well. We are still throughout the North State in a flood warning through 9:15 Monday. So not only is Butte County looking for the potential of flood,
GCU is the university that never sleeps, moving at the speed of light. And now, GCU is leading in the area of computer science.
Flooding, but so is the rest of the area, maybe at a smaller degree. Another concern is going to be all that water that's coming out of Keswick and Shasta in combination of Orville will continue to head farther south along the Sacramento River. So areas even farther south could potentially be looking at flooding later in the week as well. So our threat tracker will remain in the medium category because of those high river levels. Again, we're still under that flood warning all the way through tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on that. We may have to elevate it going through Tuesday, but then our whole next system works its way in on Wednesday with a lot more rainfall finally making its way through. We're going to go ahead and toss things back over to Brent, who has the Butte County Sheriff on the line. Brent.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Sheriff Honey, thanks for joining us. I know it is amazingly busy right now.
which that's what they're pushing. Okay, pushing. Okay, very good. Okay, that's very okay. I got it. That's
Sheriff
going
Honey,
out.
you are live with us right
Do
now.
we know what the
Sheriff Honey, you're live with us right now on Channel 7. What do we want people to know at this moment?
Hello? Are you
Sheriff
talking
Honey,
to me?
yes, this is Brent Weber. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
We are live on Channel 7 right now. What is the most important thing for residents and viewers to know at this moment?
Okay, so as you are aware, earlier this evening we ordered the evacuation of Oroville and the cities south of that. We also notified Yuba and Sutter counties of the need to activate evacuations. The reason for that, between 3:30 and 4 this afternoon, the emergency public safety personnel assigned to the incident involving the Oroville Dam Spillway situation were advised by the Department of Water Resources staff that they had detected a significant hole near the front of the auxiliary/emergency spillway. And you'll recall that that spillway was the one that was being used to reduce the lake level because of the damage with the regular spillway. The DWR folks were quite concerned about that because it was eroding the land back towards the face of the spillway at a rapid rate. When they were asked what would happen if it got to the face of the spillway, there was significant concern that it would compromise the spillway and perhaps result in a substantial release of water downstream. In talking with DWR, they couldn't tell us with certainty how long that might occur and what would result, but there was the potential for catastrophic failure, which would have put thousands of lives in danger. As a result of that information, talking with my other public safety partners, we made the decision that we were going to order the evacuation of the Oroville area and the areas south. We decided that we couldn't wait to see if the situation became more stable or resolved itself, because if we did, we wouldn't have had enough time to get people out. So it was a tough decision, but it was a decision that had to be made, and I decided to err on the side of caution and start the evacuation process. Since then, I just got another update, which the DWR folks indicated to me that the rate in which that cut was eroding back towards the face of the spillway was not as rapid as what they initially thought it would be. That's a good thing because it has slowed that. So in order to try to prevent a catastrophic failure, they began to release 100,000 cubic feet per second of water down the regular but damaged spillway in an effort to lower the lake level below the area, below what was needed for the emergency spillway, and thereby relieve pressure on that. I am told that that is working and that the lake is dropping, and the last bit of information I had was that there was only about 2 inches of water going over the auxiliary/emergency spillway. That will help stabilize the situation, but I'm not confident that it will remove the threat or the danger. So we are going to continue with this evacuation order until I can be assured that the integrity of the spillway is intact, and that we aren't putting thousands of lives at risk.
Sheriff,
there is another effort being made to shore up the integrity of that eroded area, and that would involve the use of helicopters to drop bags of rock into the crevice to prevent any further erosion. At this point, that's all the information I have. We have another briefing at 9 p.m., and I'm trying to get some additional information from there. Okay?
Sheriff, I know you need to get out, but I just want to clarify one thing that I think might help people understand better. When they are talking about catastrophic failure, we are talking about the spillway. They're not talking about failure of the dam itself, correct?
Thank you very much, and I think it's very, very important that you said that. I'm not talking about failure of the dam. We're talking about the failure of the spillway, what's been termed the auxiliary or emergency spillway. Now, the amount of water that would have washed downstream could have been significant, resulting in flooding all the way downstream. I was told by the Department of Water Resources that they did not have models for that. That wasn't something that was contemplated, which added to my decision to call for this evacuation. The bottom line is I made the decision to be safe rather than sorry, because if we would have waited and we would have been wrong, it could have jeopardized thousands of lives.
Sheriff
Okay,
Honey,
guys, I got to go.
We
okay?
know you got to go.
All right,
Sheriff
thank
Honey,
you.
we really appreciate your time. We will keep bringing all the information. That is Sheriff Honey from Butte County, essentially telling us this is a proactive, a measure he wanted to act before it became a critical scenario for residents, but that doesn't mean wait it out. They are going door to door. They are sending authorities out at the closest to the dam. You are being told to evacuate South Oroville and then downstream. So if in doubt, get in the car, take your time, go the way out of town. And you can see video right now from the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds where they are doing their best. There are several areas, some evacuation centers for people of Oroville that have just come into our newsroom. Paradise Veterans Hall now open. That's at 6550 Skyway in Paradise. Tehama County District Fairgrounds also open at 650 Antelope Boulevard in Red Bluff. So you can go straight to one of these places, and we'll have that up on a graphic for you in a moment. There's also Paradise Alliance Church, 6491 Clark Road in Paradise, open to RVs and trailers only, and Rolling Hills RV Park at 2645 Everett Freeman Way. That's in Corning. So we're going to give you a moment to look at those on the screen. And if you need to jot any of those down, Mike Dudley at Rolling Hills RV Park says they have about 20 spots available. Southbound lanes on 149, 70, and 99 are becoming northbound. There will be no highways to drive into Oroville. So if you have a family member that you need to check on, your best option is to call 211 if you know of somebody that needs assistance in getting out. Otherwise, there will be no roads going into Oroville. This is very important. They are able to take your calls from landline or cell phone into 211. It is best not to call 911 unless you have an emergency scenario. So leave 911 open for that situation. Let us recap for you that immediate evacuation from low levels of Oroville and areas downstream was ordered after 4 today, and the hazardous situation developed. I used the words that the auxiliary spillway had failed, and a better choice of terminology would be that it is overwhelmed. It is working, but there has been extensive erosion, as you have seen in our live shots throughout the day, and we'll take a look at some video right now of the river there. You can see cars leaving, but it does show an orderly evacuation. This being the most critical aspect. National Weather Service has issued a flash flood warning, of course, for the area. And we want to bring you back to the timeline of this scenario. We also were told over an hour ago that officials anticipated a failure of that auxiliary spillway. I used that word earlier. What we have seen is an overwhelmed spillway at this point in time. And you can see it on the left. The spillway, they are letting everything they can through the main spillway that they possibly can, more than 100,000. and I'm going to read this to you here in just a moment. I've just been told 200 to 250 cars are already at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds, so they are evacuation centers, so they are nearing capacity there. There are some churches, so if you do know an area, hey, go to the mall up here in Reading. If you can get out of there, this is a safety measure at this point. There are no reports of injuries. And certainly we're going to be looking at some very significant downstream damage. We just don't know what that's going to be. Issues with the spillway at the Orville Dam began back in 2013. We learned this past week that crews made some patches on the main spillway near where the damage that we've been watching significantly was found Wednesday. The left of your screen from this helicopter footage, that is the emergency spillway, which was breached for the first time ever earlier yesterday. Now, officials Wednesday said they did a visual report from a distance of several years ago. Fast forward to 4 years later, the gaping hole discovered Wednesday began at 45 feet by 300 feet, 500 feet long. There is no way to know exactly how long that is now because it is under 100,000 cubic feet a second going across it. Officials said through the week the emergency spillway would not need to be used, but we should be fair in saying that it was a last resort. They did not expect it to be used, and it has done its job. It has never been tested before. Let us keep this in mind that until 1 a.m. Saturday morning, in nearly a half century of operation, lake levels had never passed the emergency spillway height at 901 feet, and that is when they did the first time ever. Flows accelerated to 12,600 cubic feet per second. Department of Water Resources has held press conferences yesterday and today. They did urge calm yesterday, but you heard the sheriff of Butte County say he made the decision to give an emergency evacuation order when he realized that there was going to be additional water that was having to come across. He did not want to have panic. And there you can see, is this a live shot coming? This is not live, but you can see not that long ago, the sun is going down. This is, of course, earlier as well out at one of the evacuation areas. But you can see getting out of town is critical. You cannot go into Orville, and that is very important. Now, crews, of course, have at noon today, they said flood evacuations were unlikely, but we, again, also were being given information that it could happen. So Taylor Torregano was there at our press conference earlier today. Now, she reported officials said they expected water currently coming down for the emergency spillway to stop by noon tomorrow, but it is very difficult today. We had a warm day today. We have additional runoff coming from snowmelt. So it is a very exact science until you get into the unknown. We have never experienced this confluence, and I'm sorry if I made a pun there, of all of the elements, a confluence of snowmelt, of significant rainfall, the most we've seen in perhaps a decade in this area, and the weathering of that main spillway, of course, reducing its effectiveness and having to be slowed. All of these things coming together at this point have brought us to this point.
So emergency spillway, if it's working correctly or not, and now we know that erosion underneath. Again, that original spillway is up there to the left, which you can't see here, and that's where the first problem came up on Tuesday when that hole popped up, and that whole spillway is just blown out, for a better lack of better words.
Well, the hole popped up, and then you have tons of inflows coming in, and so it was, I know it's an overused term, but it really was a perfect storm. You had these unusual amounts of inflows from a lot of rain, and of course you had high snow levels, which meant you had more runoff going into the lake, so much so that with the damaged spillway, they just weren't able to bring the lake level down fast enough to avert having to use the emergency spillway, which now they've used, but that has created its own set of problems. And Mark, I know you're working on some other stuff for our newscast right now, but they mentioned that they jumped the outflow from the spillway from 55K to 100,000 CFS. Was that, do we know what time that was? Because I'm looking on the DWR. Okay, you're looking it up.
Well,
so
I can tell you it was around 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, so it was about right when they put out the emergency alert.
Yeah, it was right around that time. It had been around 55. They then bumped that up to about 65, and now it's up to about 100. And I just got updated information on what the impact that may have on the Feather River downstream. And to keep in mind that this rise, this is the Feather River at Gridley, so this is south of Oroville. It Right now it's around 92 feet. It's supposed to go to 95 feet, 95.2 tonight and into the day tomorrow and stay there. Now that's based on that 100,000 CFS number. If there is a failure of the auxiliary spillway, this number will be higher. But note that this is below flood stage. Flood stage is 103. Now there are some impacts at 92. It does begin to flood some areas on the east side of the river, on the east side of Gridley, but it says it's basically some orchards, and at this level it doesn't even impact Highway 70 at that point. But there you are going to see a rise on the Feather River just based on that increase to 100,000 CFS. But it's important to note that that is below flood stage. So I was just looking at these updated numbers just in from the DWR and the River Forecast Office. So you are going to see some higher levels regardless of what happens upstream. But again, if there is that failure, then the flow goes above 100,000, then we'd be looking at a different situation. But it's important to note we are not looking at that type of a situation right now.
All right, thank you, Mark. And our continuing coverage of the auxiliary spillway emergency continues.
You're watching KCRA 3. We begin with break.
They were in Oroville, from the surface streets in Oroville. The traffic was backed up. They said people were driving extremely dangerously. Everybody, a little on edge by this mandatory evacuation. I spoke to a gentleman who was on his way to the bank with his girlfriend and his dog, and he said the fire engines raced by. The firefighter said in a panicked tone, "You need to get out now." So they just turned the car around. So some of these people don't have jackets. Some of them are dressed in pajamas. Some of them are in dirty clothing. Many of them don't want to go on camera because they said they were taken so by surprise by this emergency alert. They literally dropped everything, got the kids, got the dog, maybe had 5 minutes to put together an overnight bag. But honestly, most of the people I'm seeing here are walking around with nothing but their pets and their families. Now, they're in the process of setting up some cots here at the shelter. There's a lot of people from local churches and Boy Scout groups. I've recognized a lot of pastors who are out there in their capacity as chaplains. There are people, Doug Teeter, a county supervisor, is here organizing. A lot of people, residents just showing up from Chico saying, "What can I do to help?" People are handing out water. They honestly haven't had a chance to organize any type of food for these people. And a lot of these people are walking around looking somewhat shell-shocked. They never anticipated that this day would come when they got the word that they had to evacuate from Orville. They just never thought it would happen. So the parking lot is filling up. All the Department of Water Resources, those employees were among the first here because they were mobilized to man the emergency shelter here. So Department of Water Resources employees, some of them not from this area, they aren't familiar with the local area. They've been called in to direct traffic. And there was one point where I think there was a bit of a confrontation between one of the local residents who was very upset.
People, and this is 2 hours ago, people trying to get out of Oroville on Highway 70. It has only gotten busier since then.
It has, and we've now seen evacuations. A lot of the highways, 70 and 99 especially, have just been jam-packed. We saw folks earlier trying to gas up, waiting in line for that to get to higher ground. Many people heading east and north to different areas, depending on where they're coming from. But the list of mandatory evacuations continues to grow from Oroville to Gridley. Places like Marysville, Yuba County, Wheatland, Plumas Lake, Olivehurst, Hallwood, and then that Feather River Yuba City Basin, which includes places like Gridley, Biggs, Yuba City, Loma Rica, some of these places south of Yuba City. But again, all of our waterways are connected, and so as this is happening upstream, we're wondering how much of an impact this is going to have for folks living south.
Let's go back out to Mike Lurie. He is parked at a gas station right now in Plumas Lake, which is south of Yuba City, and this is along, I believe, Highway 70, and they're busy there. People trying to get any gas they can there. Mike?
Right, that's we're here at Plumas Stop and Shop, the busiest place in town right now, where folks are trying to get gas. We have Philip here live. Philip, you're live on KCRA 3. Tell us where you're from and where you're going.
From Plumas Lake here. Basically just got done packing up the trailer full of our household goods, everything that's important to us, and we're heading down to Citrus Heights. My parents live down there, so hopefully my diesel will make it. Obviously I'm not getting diesel right now, so
so you can see there's big huge lines to get in, everybody trying to get on the road and head south to safer places.
Yes, definitely. So hopefully I can make it down to the next gas station, get some diesel and make it safely. I got my family behind me and the other cars. So
how about your pets?
Pets are with my
Hey Mike,
wife.
tell you what, hang on just a second. Sorry to interrupt. We'll be right back to Mike in a second. We do have some new information that we need to get to our viewers.
Well, we're getting something in from Butte County Sheriff. So do we have information from our producers?
Okay, we're going to listen in on this actually, guys.
We've additionally stood up another incident management team, similar to the one that I have here with me. And that one will be assisting and based out of Red Bluff. So they will be coordinating and assisting this team as well. Both the director and deputy director of CAL FIRE are here not here at this location, but are in Sacramento at the Operations Center to assist and coordinate efforts from a regional perspective as well, to assure I get the resources as well as the sheriff gets the resources that they need to be effective in mitigating the emergency or the incident that we are faced with right now. Thank you.
So at this point, and again, I realize we've had some additional media outlets come in, and certainly I hope this is working for what you need. But I want to speak to my community as well, right? That's what's important tonight. And so we have Eric C., who is with the Department of Water Resources. We've been working closely with him for the last couple of days to try to really understand the situation. And I think that one of the concerns with the standard spillway or the normal spillway when it became damaged was erosion back towards the dam. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Can you update us on where we're at with that?
Yes. So the Sheriff Honey explained most of the information I was going to provide, but we have a head cut situation on just downstream of the auxiliary spillway. That's a similar type of erosion feature that we had on the main spillway. The erosion feature on the main spillway, the head cut, even with these increased flows, last information I had was that it hadn't moved, so it was still in the same location. Let's see,
and that's a good thing, folks.
Yes.
That's a good thing because that will allow, correct me if I'm wrong, but that will allow us to continue to release water through the regular spillway.
Exactly.
At the rate that we are, correct?
Yes, and the reason to do that is to lower the lake very quickly, to get it off of that auxiliary spillway, because what was causing the head cut was the water going over and eroding. So if we can get it down and get it off, we shut the water flow off. So you stop the force that was creating the erosion. So that was the first thing that we wanted to do, and we're going to keep it going down also to reduce the amount of pressure that's pushing on the auxiliary spillway structure. So that's the plan right now. I came up here, the engineers were all down the hill. I mean, I'm not seeing any of the DWR folks in this room, so I know they're all down there right now working on it. So I don't have any more information than when I left in my car to come up here to do this press conference or to speak with you. So I believe we're having another press conference or briefing at 9 o'clock, and we're going to have more information at that time.
So just like we mentioned outside, now's the time for you to ask questions. All we ask is that we do it one at a time to give an opportunity, and then just please, which question, if you have, just who you're addressing it to, sir.
Sure. I noticed this summer that there was a lot of heavy equipment working down along the River from Larkin all the way towards, Eastern Road and probably further down. Was that because this purpose? Because they're already going to do something like this? Or, I mean, anybody that's living along the river, should they evacuate also? I mean,
yes.
Because all the water that's coming down.
They're part of this evacuation order, but I will say that that's a project by the Sutterview Flood Control Agency. It's one of the many projects that's been going on in the last 10 or 15 years to increase our flood protection in California. So there's been bond measures passed, and that project actually goes through a portion of the Orville Wildlife Area, and that's what it is. It's the Feather River West Levy project, and it's specifically is designed to bolster the levee along that area. But I will say that the channel capacity prior to that, was still at 150,000 cubic feet per second. So it was to improve that levee system down there.
So you're listening right now to a press conference of the Butte County Sheriffs, and they're giving us the latest information, talking about combining resources, and really gave a bit of good news, which is that all that water that is coming off not only the original spillway, but that auxiliary emergency spillway, at least it's taking some of the pressure off of that dam. So their goal right now is to keep that water going. They have crews out there in place to, again, try to fill an area that has eroded away with some big boulders. The timing of that, we are not sure. But we want you to listen into this press conference because our reporter's there, and these are just kind of questions that are being asked that maybe you have as well.
Contact people who are closest to it, who they didn't be affected. We will continue to work down that until we have some reasonable degree of certainty that we don't need to continue to do that. So if you're living there, I think that's the thing. Okay? You bet. You bet. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
What is your control in the
We are assessing that right now. This is very early in the incident, so I really can't speak to it right now because I don't have that information.
I'm going to throw something out there for everybody to keep in mind and keep a perspective of, is this is a very dynamic incident. So as far as to be able to predict exactly what is going on, we are working with, one, Mother Nature. That is huge, and that is hard for us to predict. We've got several subject matter experts from DWR, Department of Water Resources, that are giving us 100% of their support and information that they can. That information is vetted, it's validated, and then we make the best information or decisions that we can based on the information that we get. But again, I would just share with you, the #1 priority for us is your safety. And that's why we have taken the appropriate measures that we have and implemented those. So we will continue to evaluate that information as it comes in. When we get some additional eyes on this first thing, when there's some daylight, where we can get some actual visual eyes on it, to better assess what we're dealing with, we will have another game plan and implement that as well. Right now, we did what we felt was right to protect the citizens. So that's why we implemented what we did.
Eric, I'm not sure. My question is, with the emergency spillway, the first spillway, this spillway that we normally use,
right.
When it eroded, everybody made was hearing from the DWR, everything is eroded, the water can still flow, we're fine. Then when the emergency, or now we're calling it the auxiliary spillway, began to, the same message was received by the public, fine, it's fine. Why is it a deeper concern now that there's erosion on the emergency or auxiliary spillway? Is the earth pack less good than the poor concrete spillway? Why is there more now with the emergency or auxiliary spillway?
Don't look now. Chuck Norris is right behind you. I heard superheroes read Chuck Norris comics. I heard at night the boogeyman checks under the bed for Chuck. I heard cats sing.
Okay, so the concern is that it's closer to the structure. We knew when we started operating the auxiliary spillway that we were going to have the water.
The Paradise
down
Veterans Hall on
Skyway,
that's 6550 Skyway,
so,
and the Tehama District Fairground on Antelope Boulevard in Red Bluff. That far out is also opened up an evacuation shelter. The Paradise Alliance Church on Clark Road has an evacuation shelter, and Rolling Hills RV Park over in Corning has also opened up an RV shelter. Again, well, we want to remind people that if you have some questions, you need some help, you can call Butte 211. It's a 24-hour helpline. They take calls. They update the evacuation information. Butte County residents should call 211 from a landline or a cell phone. Yuba and Sutter residents, by the way, we should mention that Yuba and Sutter counties have also been told to evacuate as well. So let's go to one person who has opened up his property to RV evacuees. His name is Shannon Meads. He says people on Facebook are also posting that their homes are open as well. Some really good Samaritans here trying to help people who are in need tonight. Let's talk to Shannon Meads right now. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well, we're doing good. Why don't you tell us exactly what you're offering and how many spots might be available and who best would be able to utilize this offer that you've made?
Well, I've got room for at least 10 RVs. I have a hookup, full hookup for one, and the others just have to be self-contained, but I do have enough room for not 10.
Okay, let's make sure we have your property. What's your address if somebody wants to take advantage of this and head over there?
Oh, yes. The address is 4010 Toombs Avenue, Corning, California.
Okay, say it again just one more time.
I'm sorry.
Say that address one more time in Corning.
Oh, it's 4010 Toombs Avenue, Toomes.
Okay, good to know. So if you have an RV and you need a place to go to that address over in Tehama County. What made you decide to do this?
You know what? I was watching the news and I just was trying to think of, how to help. So, I mean, it's a small thing, but at least I can help in some way.
We have seen that many people have posted these similar type of offers on Facebook, and I think we could probably encourage people to go to our Facebook page if there is something that wants to be offered. Just one more time, Mr. Meads, if you don't mind giving us that address one last time. If somebody has an RV that they want to use, that they want to take over to Corning to get away from the potential flooding, what's the address again?
It's 4010 Toombs Avenue, Toomes, in Corning, California. All they have to do is call, or they can just show up, and we'll fix them right up.
All right, Mr. Meads, thank you so much for your time, and the community thanks you for your generosity as well.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
All the best to you. So the emergency evacuations began at about 4:15. There is no way, really, at this point, it's going to be difficult to get into Oroville, particularly lower-lying areas. Southbound lanes on 99, 162, and Highway 70 have been closed. They are now northbound lanes to get out. I just got in my earpiece that the Glenn County Fairgrounds now has an evacuation site as well. The Glenn County Fairgrounds, I believe, I want to make sure the city of that, I believe is that Orland or Willows? I cannot recall right off the top of my head. Maybe you can find that out for me. The Glenn County Fairgrounds, I believe that it's Orland. It is Orland. Okay, the Glenn County Fairgrounds now has an evacuation center as well. Here are the others, one at the Paradise Veterans Hall, the Tehama District Fairgrounds, the Paradise Alliance Church, and the Rolling Hills RV Park over in Corning as well. And again, we want to make sure we get this information out. If you have any questions that you need about the evacuation information, you should call Butte 211. Just call 211 for updates. It's a 24-hour helpline. Residents need to call from a landline or a cell phone. Yuba and Sutter residents have a particular number they need to call, which is right there, 1-866-916-3566. And there's a shot taken earlier of the massive flooding and really the traffic. We were speaking with both Doug LaMalfa, the Congressman, District 1 Congressman of the U.S. House of Representatives, who said that it was like, in his words, like a parking lot on Highway 99. And so it's difficult to get. It's going to be difficult for a while, but again, they've opened up lanes in just one direction now. There are no southbound lanes, just northbound lanes coming out of Orville. No lanes open going into Orville. Let's toss things over now to Jeremy Linder, who's going to give us some more information about the weather pattern and how it might affect what's happening right now. Jeremy.
that's why the concern for flooding across low-lying areas is in place, and why we do have that flash flood warning still in effect for the areas shaded in red through 4:15 Monday afternoon. All of that water has to go somewhere. And what's going to come into play is it's going to flow down the Feather River. It's going to find the most low-lying areas and spread out from there. It's very hard to control water. It's going to go wherever it wants to go. You block it off in one area, it's going to find another way around it. Again, following the most lowest path. So it's best, if possible, to head across the course into the higher elevations. Above the lake elevation of 900 feet, definitely preferred. But the area in red is our biggest concern that we keep an eye out for. Obviously, Orville, Palermo, Gridley, East Biggs is in there as well, Thermalito. And as we continue to go through, here's the river. I mentioned that earlier. This is where all the water is going to come into play and then expand from there. We're also seeing another wet pattern setting itself up for the middle of the week. So we're dry right now, but that won't be the case. So even more rainfall is going to come into Lake Orville later into the week, and that could extend the potential for some flooding as it passes through. So here's precision cast 6 o'clock on Thursday night. This is the wave that's just now beginning to come through. It's going to be unsettled, so that means one after another all the way through the weekend, where we could see some chances of rainfall throughout the North State, not only for the valley but for the mountains as well. Snow levels will start off high, so we'll continue to see more snow melt as the system first progresses through, but we are showing indications that those levels could dip to about 4,000 feet, which would be good to keep some of that moisture still packed away in the mountains, let it melt off in the spring. But of course, we're seeing that melt right now, and that's really where our threat for flooding is coming into play. The overall flood warning still in effect through 9:15 Monday evening. So our threat tracker is still in the medium for tomorrow. Because of the high river levels, we're going to continue to see the potential for both Tuesday and Wednesday. But a lot of water could potentially be headed our way. I'll talk about more on that coming up in just a bit, but Jerry's got some latest information. We're going to go ahead and toss it back to him on the desk.
All right, thank you so much, Jeremy. Last check over at the evacuation center over at the Silver Dollar Speedway in Chico, there were about 250 cars that had arrived. That was about 30 minutes ago. KRCR's Kelly Som is there now live, and she gives us an update. Kelly, what can you tell us?
Words of encouragement to them, because there are a lot of people who look, frankly, a little shell-shocked right now walking around here, who got out of Oroville with probably 5 minutes or less warning.
Yes, and probably don't have a lot of things. We do have nurses if, they didn't get their medications or stuff like that, so we can try to help arrange and work with that kind of stuff. But just come, relax, okay, talk to other people, because other people are in the same situation they are. A lot of people are afraid, frightened, don't know what's going on, and it just helps to be a neighbor.
For those of us joining us in progress on Facebook Live, this is Vern England, and he's a disaster volunteer for the American Red Cross working out of Oroville. And Vern, tell us about how many people would you estimate have checked in here so far? Do you have any numbers yet?
I don't have any numbers at all yet, so we're just starting. So I know that immediately they sent a trailer from Yuba City with 200 cots, and the Chico trailer has 150. We have 150 cots from Oroville. So, that's the initial 3 trailers out there.
Okay, go ahead. And have you heard about other shelters in Chico?
Not as yet. I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of room for people to come.
Dealing with disaster services, I'm sure there is a disaster plan in Oroville for this type of occasion. Do you think that Oroville was ready for this in terms of planning ahead?
I think that they were the operation, the emergency operation system. I think it was prepared and had a plan to do this.
Anything else you'd like to share with people who might be in Chico or other parts of Butte County or the North State and want to help? What would you tell them?
Pray.
Are you concerned about your house tonight?
No, my house is above the floodplain level. It's as high as the dam, right close to the dam, but totally safe, and my grandkids are there, and my daughter-in-law's there.
Are they giving you any reports about what it looks like on the ground in Oroville tonight?
Just that it's a gridlock of automobiles for people trying to get out of town.
Yeah. Okay, Vern, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate your words of wisdom and your expertise. So Kelly Soundback here live at the commercial building at the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds, where they are setting up dozens and dozens of cots. And this will be the new home, as was explained to me by one volunteer. This will be the new home for hundreds of people tonight who have arrived with very little, but their clothes on their backs and their family. And as Vern said, they just need your prayers tonight. So we'll sign off for now and check back later.
All right, thank you so much, Kelly. Reporting live from the Silver Dollar Fairgrounds, where the American Red Cross has put together an evacuation center, one of many throughout the North State, trying to help out in this emergency situation. We do want to remind you that that there were warnings that this could possibly happen, and we provided many of those warnings since this story first began back on Tuesday, late Tuesday, early Wednesday morning, when that hole in the spillway was first spotted and then grew, and now the problem has grown exponentially to where we're at right now with these incredible evacuations and this incredible scene that's happening.
Flooded. Now, Nancy was at the shelter in Chico today. She's lived in Oroville for 13 years. Now, the water level in the lake rose significantly in recent weeks after storms dumped rain and snow across California, especially in the northern parts of the state. The high water forced the use of the dam's emergency spillway, or overflow, for the first time in the dam's nearly 50-year history on Saturday. Now, the threat has appeared to ease somewhat today as the water levels fell. However, officials said water was flowing out of the lake at nearly twice the rate as water flowing into it. Sunday afternoon's evacuation order came after engineers spotted a hole in the secondary spillway for the 770-foot-tall Orville Dam and told that authorities that it could fail within the hour. Obviously, that warning prompted mass evacuations as residents did not want to take a chance. Keep in mind that more rain is expected later this week, Wednesday and Thursday. Officials rushing to try to fix the damage and hoping to reduce the dam's water level by 50 feet ahead of the storms. Obviously, the sudden evacuation panicked residents who scrambled to get their belongings into cars and then grew angry as they sat in bumper-to-bumper traffic hours after the order was given. One man who manages a Shell station, where anxious motorists got gas and snacks, said his boss told him to close the station and flee himself, but he chose to stay open and feed a steady line of customers. Raj Gill said, "You can't even move. I'm trying to get out of here too. I'm worried about the flooding. I've seen the pictures. That's a lot of water." A Red Cross spokeswoman said more than 500 people showed up at an evacuation center in Chico, California. The shelter ran out of blankets and cots, and a tractor trailer with 1,000 more cots was stuck in gridlock traffic, fleeing the potential flooding Sunday night. A CHP spokesman said that 2 planes would fly Monday, that's today, to help with traffic control and possible search and rescue missions. Now, almost 200,000 residents in Yuba, Sutter, and Butte counties were ordered to evacuate yesterday. Now, Lake Oroville is one of California's largest man-made lakes. Again, yesterday, almost 200,000 people were told to evacuate after engineers discovered a hole that was eroding near the top of a 770-foot tall dam. Sparking fears that the emergency spillway could fail. Fortunately, water levels at the dam were dropping today. Still, state officials said they would have to inspect the erosion scar on the spillway themselves before determining the next steps. Also, keep in mind, forecasters have predicted another round of rain Wednesday, which could soak the area and put new pressure on the dam and spillway. Now, the cities of Oroville, Gridley, Live Oak, Marysville, Wheatland, Yuba City, Plumas Lake, and Olivehurst were all under evacuation orders. And it looks like we are going to get a press conference update on this Oroville Dam situation now. An update, a press conference coming in momentarily.
First thing that I want to make very, very clear, because it's been an important milestone in this situation that we've been dealing with, is that there's no water is flowing over the emergency spillway at this time. That's an important thing, because our primary goal is to ensure safety of our community and the residents that we serve, and that is a big step forward towards that. The lake levels are continuing to fall. That's also an important point. Our objective is to lower the lake level by 50 feet in order to prepare for future inflow of water due to storms and precipitation. We're continuing to monitor, with the Department of Water Resources staff, continuing to monitor the spillways for erosion. As you know, we issued an evacuation order because of a situation that we thought was significant to public safety or posed a threat to public safety. I understand that there are a lot of rumors out there suggesting that the evacuation is going to end at 4:15 today. That is not accurate, folks. This is still a dynamic situation. It's still a situation we're trying to assess the damage, and we need to have time to make sure that before we allow people back into those areas, it is safe to do so. So I want to make it clear, the evacuation is still in effect. Now, that said, I also want to make it very clear that we're working on a repopulation plan to allow for the safe and orderly repopulation or return of the citizens to their homes. When it is safe, based upon the evaluations from DWR and our state and federal partners, then we'll be in a better position to make the decision as to when to lift that evacuation. But again, I want to make it clear, evacuations are still in place. I recognize that this is displacing a lot of people. I recognize what a hardship it is placed on our community. But again, as I told you last night, we did this because our primary purpose is to ensure public safety. It was a hard decision to make, but I can tell you that the decision to release the evacuation and allow people to return to the evacuate area is an equally difficult decision to make, and it's one that has to be based on analysis that we're receiving from subject matter experts in the field. So thank you very much, and I'm going to now turn it over to my colleague from the CAL FIRE.
Thank you, Chief Honey. Kevin Lawson, I'm the Incident Commander with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 3. I wanted to share with you guys that we are in close cooperation and in unified command with Butte County Sheriff and the Department of Water Resources. As the Sheriff had stated, it's very much a fluid and dynamic operation that is going on out there. When you try to factor in what we're dealing with Mother Nature, it's hard to look at a crystal ball and predict how that's going to evolve. So with the close communication and cooperation amongst these agencies, as well as our state and local counterparts providing us with the resources that we're getting, and we are getting the resources that we request and the resources that we need. So I assure you, it's working seamlessly amongst the three of us, and I expect that to continue.
And if I could just add, now that we've discussed that, I just want to talk briefly about a press release that you should have received from my office a little while ago. Reference the actions we took to protect the inmates housed in the Butte County Jail. It was necessary for us to evacuate those inmates when we issued the evacuation order for the general public. At the time, I did not disclose the location where those inmates were going to be housed because it would have posed a security risk while they were in transit. They have now arrived safely, and we are very fortunate to have the assistance of the Alameda County Sheriff's Office. Those inmates, all in excess of 500 of them, were transported down to Alameda County Jail, and they're arrived safely, and they're currently being housed. Sheriff Ahern was gracious enough to do that, and they will remain in that location until such time as we determine it is safe to return them to the Butte County Jail. The press release that you received gives family members the information they need to make contact with their loved ones. It provides a number that they can contact so that they can check on their loved ones and perhaps contact them and visit them.
So, my name is Bill Croyle, acting director of the California Department of Water Resources. So, as indicated, we are not water's not flowing over the emergency spillway. Our efforts to continue to monitor our situation on the flood control structure that was damaged earlier in this week continues. We're using a wide variety of monitoring techniques, including 24/7 people on the ground, live feed video, and drone resources to make sure that we understand the dynamics behind our existing system. We're moving 100,000 cubic feet per second down that spillway. We've been doing that for about the last 16 or 17 hours. We bumped the flow up when this situation occurred late yesterday afternoon to mitigate the impact of that erosion that was occurring. That solution worked to reduce the threat. It took a while for that water to come down and for us to get in and assess that condition at the downstream side of the emergency spillway. We're going to continue to work on the challenges that we have with this facility. As indicated, we're working to really dig down into the reservoir and move as much water out of that reservoir, and so we have space for the storms that we expect to come in, as well as the snow runoff later this spring. People are working very hard to deal with some of the challenges that we have. As indicated, we have a pretty diverse multi-agency and contractor resources are being deployed to address a whole number of things that are popping up, including implementing protective measures or corrective measures to make sure that we're not only dealing with what's occurring now, but have a little longer perspective on what may occur with our spring runoff period. Thank you.
We're now open to take questions, but again, we'd like to limit those to a very few questions. Our emergency managers have a lot of work to do, and we'd like to get back and do what we can to protect the citizens of Butte County.
What is the current inflow into the lake, and how do you expect to hit the 50-foot target by the storm time the storm hits on Wednesday?
Yeah, so the question is, what is the inflow? I'm sorry, I should have covered that. It's an important part of the dynamics within the reservoir operations. So this morning about 9 o'clock, we had approximately 37,000 acre-feet of water flowing into the reservoir. So we're on the kind of the back side of the hydrograph, which is good. We're discharging, again, 100,000 cubic feet per second, so we have a net or a delta of storage coming out. more than 60,000 feet. That will continue to increase in the coming days. We do have a storm coming in later Thursday, Friday. However, the forecasted hydrograph on that looks quite a bit smaller than the event we went through here in the last 3 or 4 days. So we will continue to develop storage, except for maybe about 12 or 15 hours that's being forecast. And then we have a couple more storms forecasted to come in after that time, but we still need to get a little closer to those weather conditions to see how that affects our storage. We expect to continue to make significant progress on developing that required flood storage here in the coming days and hopefully the coming weeks.
Can you hit 50 feet at this rate? That's the question.
It all depends on the runoff, on the weather systems, the air temperature in the upper basin. These storms look like they're coming in a little cooler at about 4,000 foot elevation, which is good. But frankly, this watershed has plenty of snow and rain in it. But we're going to deal with that comes in. So when or how long this is going to take kind of depends on the dynamics within the watershed. It could be 10 to 15 days. It could be a little bit longer. But our infrastructure is holding up very well, even though it's been damaged. And if we can keep up this discharge rate of 100,000 CFS here in the coming days, we will make good progress on that.
Right here, Dale.
Bill, how did the emergency structure, which I was told was supposed to be able to handle 250,000 CFS, come close to failing with just a few thousand CFS? What went wrong there?
Well, I'm not sure anything went wrong. I think, it's a that system's been installed since the early 1960s. It's been looked at, it's been monitored. I'm not sure the cause of the damage itself. This is the first time it's ever taken water over the system. Part of that is designed for actually a much higher flow event. Sometimes, amazingly, lower flows can cause more energy and cause a condition. But frankly, we don't know exactly why this erosion occurred. The key for us is that we did have our monitoring people in place. This was a new, never happened before event. When we do that, we're going to err on the side of having multiple monitoring strategies so that when something comes up, like we saw yesterday, we see a problem, we look at that rate, we consult with our technical experts, inform our emergency managers, and we make a decision, and that's what we did.
Question right here, Price.
Thank you. In 2005, there was talk from critics saying that the emergency spillway should be lined with concrete. Do you agree with that? And do you feel like it actually will support more water?
I'm not familiar with the 2005 documentation or conversation.
Do you think it should have been lined with concrete?
I'm not aware of the findings or what that was based on, so I can't respond to that.
Right over here.
Listen, I know you guys have been up for a long time, but I have a tough question for you, sort of on behalf of a lot of the evacuees, what they've been saying, and what they've been, that you can understand some frustration. What they initially heard was, hey, there's some erosion, but don't worry about it. Then, all of a sudden, yesterday it was run for your lives. You have 1 hour to live. How can you make sure that they trust you and your messages here? Because now they're, hey, no, there's not been any flooding. It hasn't gone over. They're worried about the trust issue.
Let me take that. So first off, throughout this entire incident, we have been very clear to keep the public informed based on the information that we were provided. And you need to understand that this is a dynamic situation. There are a lot of variables, a lot of factors. And so when the information comes in, it's given to us, and we utilize that to formulate our message to the public in an effort to keep them informed. When this incident occurred, it became apparent that we needed to act quickly. What's important here, as Bill said, we were monitoring this very, very closely. The fact that we were monitoring it closely allowed us to respond very quickly when that was the appropriate thing to do. Now, as I've said before, I recognize and absolutely appreciate the frustration that the people who have been evacuated must feel. That was not a decision that I made lightly. That was a decision that I made based on the best information provided to me by the subject matter experts in consultation with other public safety officials. And we determined that although efforts to mitigate potential failure needed to take place, we couldn't guarantee that they would be completed in the time frame necessary to ensure that people could be evacuated. And so I decided to issue the evacuation because I felt that protecting lives was the most important thing to do. I think the fact that DWR's efforts to mitigate or prevent a failure at that time by increasing the flows so that no more water was coming over the top of that is a success. And quite frankly, what I see this is as a double success. Public safety professionals did their job to protect the public, and we were able to get people evacuated out of the community in a fairly timely fashion, and for such a chaotic event in a fairly orderly manner. And at the same time, our partners at the Department of Water Resources were working to save that structure and prevent further damage so that we could go on. That's a double success. Now, as I said earlier, getting those people home is important to me. I want that to happen as absolutely soon as possible. But I have to be able to sleep at night knowing that they're back into that area. And if it's raining and there's more water coming into the lake, if I can't in good conscience believe that those people are safe, I haven't done my job. And so that's what I'm going to do. And to the people displaced, I apologize, but I'm doing it to protect
Case area
you.
up front, and then we'll work our way back.
Right, Vic Gonzalez with KCRA. How is the state unaware of a motion that was filed more than a decade ago warning federal regulators of the deficiencies of the dam, particularly the emergency spillways, instabilities in the event it's used?
So I personally am not aware of the question that comes over, and so that's part of our vetting process. I myself, in this incident command post, working with my partner agencies, is focused on addressing the challenges that we have at this very time. It's complicated, it's dynamic as indicated. We can't do this without our whole incident command team and a multi-layered government approach. We have our federal agencies, our state, and our local agencies teamed up side by side, along with our third-party contractors, both technical experts and our contract crews. And so we're going to get into recommendations or concerns that were voiced in the past, but right now we're focused on maintaining public safety, not just during this event, but during this upcoming spring runoff period.
Is it concerning to you that there were concerns issued over a decade ago that maybe more proactive measures could have been taken to prevent this from happening?
Yeah, again, I feel like before I can answer a question like that, we need to do the homework and we can have a better conversation regarding that.
Yeah, hi, Bill. Jim Carlton with the Wall Street Journal. Could you talk about the hole itself, and maybe is there any way to quantify how much rock has been put in there so far, and what do you plan to do today? Just talk a little bit about what's being done to that hole again.
Are you talking about the hole or the little erosion that occurred?
Well, yeah, the erosion, yeah.
Okay, because there was another hole.
Well, in the emergency
yeah, okay.
spillway, right?
Yeah, the emergency. That's what we're focused. I mean, we're focused on the whole facility. Let me reiterate: the dam itself is sound. The dam and its historic full is doing its job. We have some little pieces that are critical to the operation of the dam that has been impaired. So we are constantly, again, monitoring that and responding to those threats. So as I understand it, again, this kind of erosion scarp has made its way close to the foot of the apron of the spillway. Frankly, I'm still being briefed on the scope and the scale of that. I'm here instead of there, but from here, I'm going to go there, and then we're going to be able to work with our incident command management team to vet out how big, how small, and the appropriate response actions to mitigate that.
Here, over here, and then in the back.
Are you expecting the evacuation order to remain through this next rain?
So at this point, I can't answer that question because we still need information that is being gathered by subject matter experts, as I said, from DWR as well as state and local agencies. We need that information to understand the risk, and then perhaps from there, as Bill has indicated, repairs may need to be completed in order for us to determine that it is safe to remove the evacuation order and allow people to be back in. As I said earlier, we are working on a repopulation plan that will get people back to their homes as soon as possible, as long as we can preserve the public safety.
Right back over here.
With the damage at the bottom of the main spillway, what's the potential for that to ruin your plans to let water out of the lake?
The damage at the bottom of the spillway below, again, backing up a little bit to Tuesday, where we had the hole form in the spillway chute, about 3,200 feet or 250 feet from the dam itself. So that hole, of course, with the continued, we had to put the spillway back in use, so again, we could start releasing water with the oncoming weather that we had. So that process has caused an erosion and put a kind of a spoil pile within that channel at the bottom. So our goal here, so it's running clean right now, which there's not a lot of dirty water, which means it's carrying sediment off that hill, which is good. So in other words, it's not continuing to erode based on the latest intel that's been provided to me. We do have a large soil and rock pile at the bottom. We're actively working on that now to remove that so we can allow those flows to continue to come down that spillway chute and then on down the river.
With two parts of this system compromised,
excuse me,
how secure can people be right here?
At this point, I'd like to give Congressman Doug LaMalfa the opportunity to speak.
Appreciate it. I've had multiple media inquiries myself here, so I would have an opportunity to address those that may have inquired with my office on that. But leading up off here, first of all, I think Sheriff Honey has done a tremendous job in communicating and making the right call on a very unknown factor up here. All the different groups involved here with CAL FIRE and Office of Emergency Services, as well as DWR, have pulled together, notwithstanding the quality of the spillway, of the engineering of that, or what happened with the emergency spillway, putting the parts together to make this crisis work through, they've done a pretty darn good job with that. So, some areas of communication, maybe missed a couple spots here and there, but that said, they're doing the best they can, and I think stability is what is being sought, and they're a long ways towards attaining that. So the people of the community have pulled together. It was pretty orderly getting out of town for the most part. I saw the highways flowing slowly at times, but pretty well. Our emergency folks did make the right call, making the lanes all going one direction out of town. And then so many people have been an outpouring of help, from Redding and Red Bluff all the way up to Grass Valley, people offering homes and places for people to stay. So the community has pulled together very well. My office, we've been in contact with the Army Corps of Engineers to get the right kind of declaration for this district, for helping the flood control districts, as well as on hand up here at the dam. Going forward, we'll be having those conversations long term to have immediate results. Now, what's Army Corps' role, and what does this make my role part of it? The federal nexus to this is that 20% of the dam was paid for by the federal government through the Army Corps. 20% of that, meaning 750,000 acre feet, belongs to the Army Corps for flood control mitigation. That's their charge. The rest of it is a state responsibility. So there's a partnership there. So we'll be working. We're looking for Governor Brown's declaration current to this dam, as well as we're in contact with the White House on this to get the declaration moving there. I've already worked with our House leadership on that. Our House leader is engaged on this. So we're marshaling our resources. One of the end goals here, to get through this crisis with obviously no loss of life or undue harm, but also to immediately, when this is over with, to move forward and restore the function of the spillway and the dam, because we'll have till next November to have something that works, depending on what next year's rainfall is going to be. So everybody's pulling together pretty well behind this. They're achieving stability with this, and so we need our constituents out there to continue to pay attention to these folks, to Sheriff Honey's especially with his call on public safety, and adhere to that, because we don't want to be doing unnecessary risks since we've already gotten people out of the risk zones. So any questions to that?
Have you heard back from the White House?
Not yet. We're still, they're aware of what's going on here, and they're making their decisions now. So but at least we wanted to have that inroad for when we get back to work. I'm supposed to be there this week, but it's pretty important here right now.
Next in the back.
Can somebody elaborate on the findings about the damage to the auxiliary spillway? And there was talk earlier yesterday about a possible failure of the very top of the structure, which would allow the top 30 feet of water to come cascading down. How likely is that? How possible is that? And what investigation do you know, just after just a little bit of sunlight, that about the structural integrity of the underlying formations underneath the auxiliary spillway?
Yeah. Okay, so we've done quickly. So last night, as soon as this happened, so we got the water. As soon as the water stopped flowing over the weir, we were able to use, again, resources here provided by law enforcement to put our resources in the air to be able to fly over that area, go down quick to see if we had any continuing emerging conditions. Based on that monitoring and assessment last night, we felt the situation was stabilizing, and we could wait until first light this morning, which is part of our press brief last night. We said that we need to get in at first light through our consultant teams, our technical experts from state and federal agencies, really frankly in the hole, to look at what happened, develop the appropriate control strategies, and at the same time we already have brought in materials to implement those control strategies. So technical experts, state and federal, as well as our private contractors that are on site, some of which have been on site throughout the duration of this event. That work, the assessment, the plan was approved, the safety plan's approved, they've deployed, they've now come back, and so they have briefed a little bit. I haven't been briefed myself, and that'll happen right after this meeting.
You've not been briefed on the damage to the auxiliary spillway yet? Like what the latest assessment is what you're saying?
I personally have not.
That concludes today's briefing.
Ballpark,
Excuse me, that concludes today's briefing. Some of our principals will be available afterwards for individual questioning. We'll make every attempt to have an additional briefing at this time tomorrow, or as anything appears from this point on. Thank you.
So the next briefing isn't till this time tomorrow?
It's scheduled at this point, unless something else occurs, and we schedule it between now and then.
Okay, guys, that wraps up that press conference out of Northern California regarding the Orville Dam. I know many of you guys watching are hoping to get those live pictures back of the Orville Dam. If we do get those back in for you, we will carry that for you live here on News Now, Oroville Dam Watch, here on the Fox 10 News Now stream. All right, guys, we're going to go back to this Oroville situation in a little bit, but we do have some disturbing news out of Arizona. We want to take you to these live images now. This is a Skyfox feed over a home. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you. A Skyfox feed over a home where a disturbing discovery has been made. Horrible conditions of animal abuse. Viewer discretion is advised. We know Pinal County Animal Care and Control has responded to this scene after reports that there were dead dogs on the property. This is in the town of Maricopa, Arizona. Several witnesses have reported this to police. This is also apparently reported to County Animal Control. There are apparently dead dogs lying there, stiff corpses, decaying. One dog is described as seemingly with the head completely gone due to the decaying. Other dogs are bloated, living in feces in horrible conditions alongside the decaying dogs. A very disturbing scene in Pinal County. conditions only being described as horrible, a scene where there are decaying animals and animals alive that are living in feces. These are live aerials coming in, courtesy of Skyfox, over the scene of this home where officials have learned about a terrible case of animal abuse in Pinal County. Again, for those of you just joining us, you're looking at live aerials from Pinal County. Pinal County Animal Care and Control has responded to this home after several witnesses reported this home to authorities. There are reports of dead dogs lying there, stiff corpses decaying. One witness described it as a dog where it seems the head is completely gone. Other dogs are bloated, living in feces in horrible conditions alongside the decaying dogs. Pinal County officials are investigating at this Maricopa property after hearing reports of at least 2 dead dogs. Now, this is in Maricopa, near Hidden Valley and Bowlin Roads, for those of you familiar with this part of Pinal County. According to Pinal County Sheriff's Office spokeswoman Paula Pollock, deputies responded to the same property regarding reports of the dead animals. Animal Control has since taken over this investigation. Again, the scene only being described as horrible conditions, decaying animals, other animals living in feces. It's a very disturbing scene. Viewer discretion is advised. We'll work to get you guys more information on this very disturbing story.
evacuation. It means you can get out
Side of the dam, they had no other choice but to release the water continuously despite it being damaged. Then on Saturday, water levels for the dam exceeded 100% capacity. Then the water began flowing over the emergency spillway for the first time in the dam's history. Now, unlike the main spillway, which kind of looks like a giant slide, the water drains down into the river. The emergency spillway is at the top of the dam. It's kind of like a reserve dam where if there is some excess water, it could just spill right over by itself. But because the emergency spillway had never been used and it was never lined with concrete, unfortunately, it began to erode. So to prevent water from carving out the side of the hill even more, the Department of Water Resources actually doubled the flow of its main damaged spillway to about 100,000 cubic feet per second. Now, yesterday, they started bringing in rocks and boulders to the staging area, which is where I'm at right now. This is usually a parking lot for a recreational area where you could actually see the dam and have parties and barbecues. Unfortunately, right now, this parking lot has turned into a rock parking lot. Again, their hope is to bag them up and drop those sandbags on top of the places where they really need to, where those gaping holes are in the spillway. Again, this right here is a temporary fix. We don't know what the permanent fix is, but of course we need something to fill up those gaps so that it doesn't keep eroding. Unfortunately, we are not out of the woods yet, so we do know that there's still 188,000 people who are evacuated, don't know when they'll be able to go home. We are still waiting for about 10 more minutes until they have another press conference with the press and the media and the community members to see if they could give us any updated numbers on the evacuations and how much water is coming out right now. But I do want to show you what the dam looks like right now. If you could turn over this way, you could see that the dam is pretty full. Department of Water Resources is continuing to monitor the situation, of course, to see if they need to move any more water out through their regular spillway or if they need to open back up their regular spillway and the auxiliary spillway. But the good news right now is that the auxiliary spillway, there is no water coming out, which means water is less than 100% capacity here at the dam. In Orville, I'm Rena Nakano. I'll send it back to you.
Rena, thank you. So we're talking about drought, climate change, aging infrastructure here combined to create this catastrophe. We are waiting for the Department of Water Resources to release some new information. There is still a lot of unknowns as we've been talking to officials in Butte County this morning, and this situation needs to be continued to be monitored. They wanted to give the Department of Water Resources some time to fully evaluate the situation as we are coming overnight and into the light of day. And of course, that raised a lot of concerns for other similar structures in the area, other dams and other levees. We're just getting this information in from the National Weather Service of Sacramento. County officials reporting imminent failure of the North Fork McCollum River levee. We're talking about Tyler Island will be flooded and likely east of Walnut Grove. Again, this is according to the National Weather Service. So this, of course, is raising some more concerns this morning. And we're looking at all these people who have been forced from their homes in midst of this disaster and in midst of this emergency. As of this point, there are several shelters that are open, available for people, and we've seen more and more open up over time as 188,000 people have been forced to evacuate. We're also just getting word from Nevada County Office of Emergency Services that at this point, the Nevada County shelter is full at this time. The Placer County Fairgrounds in Roseville still has room for evacuees, and they are taking pets at that shelter, at the one at the Placer County Fairgrounds. There are also a number of other shelters that have opened up as well. And we've been watching on social media that people are opening up their homes to all these people who have been forced to flee.
Well, and this new news that there is a levee that may be compromised south of Sacramento, given the fact that so many resources have already been deployed to the Yuba City, Marysville, Oroville area, obviously will be maybe stretched a little bit thin. One of the side stories that has come out since we began coverage this morning, that is, if there is a lighter side to this story, Yuba City High School and River Valley High School, which are both in Yuba City, had 150 kids from their bands in Southern California for a band competition, and they were driving back home when they found out that their area where they live was being evacuated. Last night, they pulled into Pleasant Grove High School in Elk Grove, where the gym was open and pizza was waiting for them. A lot of their parents picked them up there. Some spent the night there. They've all since safely been picked up.
Well, that is a lighter story, definitely.
Yeah.
In this situation, as a lot of schools have been closed, they happen to be out of town. A lot of schools have been closed because of the evacuation and because of the threat on the Oroville area. There are several school districts that are closed. All of Oroville schools have been shut down. And we've been talking about these nearly 190,000 people that have been evacuated as Butte County is threatened with the potential erosion here that remains a threat at the Oroville Dam and at the spillways of the Oroville Dam, possibly being called here the worst disaster in California history as far as dams are concerned.
Potentially, and we certainly appear to have averted that for now. Environmental groups, though, have pointed out that the danger could have been prevented entirely. Dire warnings from more than 10 years ago have just been brought back to light by some excellent reporting in the San Jose Mercury News.
Let's get to Simone now, who's explaining this for us and what the Mercury News is reporting, Simone.
Yeah, Paul May, there's a lot to break down here. The threat of major flooding comes nearly 1 week after chunks of concrete eroded from the main spillway at the Oroville Dam. You may remember this. This happened last Tuesday. You can recall that gaping hole in the spillway. Water releases were halted while the Department of Water Resources investigated that damage. But the runoff from recent rain continued to cause water levels at Lake Oroville to rise, and officials then braced for the auxiliary spillway to be used for the first time in the dam's nearly 50-year history. On Saturday, lake levels exceeded 901 feet elevation above sea level, and then water began spilling over the 1,730-foot-long concrete lip along the top of the emergency spillway. Now, soon after, erosion was so severe, officials did order mandatory evacuations. More than 10 years ago, environmental groups raised concerns that, if heeded, could have prevented the damage we are seeing today. The Orville Dam is the tallest in the United States, built in 1968. A number of voices say this potential flooding could have been stopped altogether. During the dam's relicensing process, this was in October of 2005, 3 environmental groups filed a motion with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission expressing concern over the safety of Oroville Dam. Now, they urged federal officials to reinforce the emergency spillway with concrete. Their concern 12 years ago was that extreme rain and flooding would lead to fast rising water, which we have seen, and they thought it could overwhelm the main concrete spillway, then flow over the emergency spillway, causing heavy erosion and threatening communities downstream. Of course, sound familiar? They referred to this disastrous scenario as loss of crest control. The groups wrote, quote, "A loss of crest control could not only cause additional damage to project lands and facilities, but also cause damage and threaten lives in the protected floodplain downstream." The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission rejected the group's request, however. They deemed it unnecessary. Federal officials at the time said the emergency spillway was designed to handle about 350,000 cubic feet per second. An engineer said at the time, during a rare flood event, it is, quote, "acceptable for the emergency spillway to sustain significant damage." It was built for that. However, yesterday's flows over that concrete lip were only 6,000 to 12,000 cubic feet per second when that severe erosion happened. Now, that's less than 5% of what we're told it was expected to handle. In order to reinforce the emergency spillway, guys, it would have cost tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Water agencies likely would have footed that bill. And hey, just into our newsroom, while I've got you guys, there are a number of hard road closures we're starting to see. I was just handed a piece of paper saying Highway 99 at Durham-Pence Road closed, 99 at State Route 149, and State Route 70 at Clark Road. There's a total of 11 hard closures. So, you know, if you're evacuating or in that area, people are going to want to pay close attention to that. And we'll have a list posted at fox40.com.
Thank you, Simone.
Simone, thank you.
A lot of folks trying to get back into Yuba City because that evacuation was not mandatory, and there's some belief that you know, the situation has improved some. So pay attention to the routes that are open and those that are not.
Simone was talking about the roads that are closed in all those areas. So let's give you some perspective here. Many of you may know where the Oroville Dam is, but to understand what's really gone on over the last week, you need to see this. It's the layout of the spillways and the Feather River and its relationship.
Here's the best explanation you'll see. Darren Peck with a closer look at the area.
So to gain some perspective on this spillway, let's start with the big picture here, Sacramento. We come in for a close-up look. The town of Oroville is 70 miles north of here as we come in for a closer look. It would take you about an hour to drive up to the town of Oroville. Then you have to turn up into the foothills, and as we come in for a closer look here, you're going to be able to see the dam. Tallest dam in the United States, second largest reservoir in California behind it. Let's spin around to the other side. The dam's never been the problem. The spillway is where this started. We're supposed to let water flow out of this to alleviate the pressure on the dam and to keep the level of the reservoir where we want it. That part was fine. But on Tuesday of last week, this was what started to crumble. And then because of the concern over how much damage might happen here, they started to reduce the flows, which then meant the reservoir started to rise. Let's come in for a closer look over here. There is an emergency spillway as we come in for a closer look over here. The emergency spillway, and we're going to take a look at a couple of different vantage points of this now quite quickly. This is about a 30-foot high concrete wall. We'll spin around to the other side here, and you'll see that this is actually lower than the main dam. That's Orville Dam right there. The emergency spillway is designed to only be used in an emergency. When you have no control over how high the reservoir's gotten and it's going to overflow, better to do it here than to let it go over the face of the dam. There's a power plant at the base of that, and you don't want to compromise the actual dam itself. Now, as we come in for a close-up look at the emergency spillway, and even a closer look over here will show us that this is a 30-foot high wall of concrete. What happened yesterday when the water was overflowing the top of this concrete wall, let's come in for a closer look over here. This is all dirt down here. So the water started to erode the base, either here or on the side closer to the parking lot, which meant there was a risk that this wall would fail. If it had failed, you would have had a 30-foot wall of water, which would have then flowed downhill. And let me show you where downhill would have led. Right down to the base of the Feather River. So in order to keep that from happening, they then quickly increased the flows on the original broken spillway. It went up to 100,000 cubic feet per second. That lowered the level of the reservoir and took the pressure off of that auxiliary dam. Now here's the concern. All that water, which could have come down here, here's the Feather River. Let's follow the Feather River to its end. We're going to keep going here. The Feather River's next stop will be the town of Oroville. One more stop after this one. Oroville sits right here. That's why Oroville was under a mandatory evacuation. We'll take two more quick stops here just to give you the rest of the journey. The smaller communities south of there were also under mandatory evacuation, and then that brings us to Yuba City, which was far enough away that this was a voluntary evacuation.
And there you go.
Darren, for that. Yeah, you have an understanding of why there are so many people that have been evacuated as a precaution. And because of that, shelters are starting to fill up. I want to bring you the very latest here. The Nevada County shelter is full at this time. Placer County Fairgrounds in Roseville still has room for evacuees, and they are accepting pets. Now, there has been a new shelter that's just been opened up. This is at First Baptist Church. That's on Ridge Road in Grass Valley. Again, that's First Baptist Church at Ridge Road in Grass Valley. Grass Valley seeing a flood of these evacuees who are being forced from their homes at this time. Please make note of that. And we do have a full list of evacuation centers as well on our website, fox40.com.
Alrighty.
Taking a look at the situation right now, water is no longer spilling over that auxiliary or emergency spillway. This was as of last night, but those mandatory evacuations are still in effect in Butte County, South Butte County.
And of course, the trouble began just under a week ago at the Orville Dam when large chunks of concrete began to erode from the main spillway, the primary spillway. So they stopped releasing water so that they could assess the damage there. Meanwhile, it was the secondary spillway, the emergency spillway, that was the problem. Now, there is a spillway that runs to the power plant at the base of the dam that was not able to let as much water as they needed. And so the emergency spillway, which had not been used in the dam's 48-year history, began spilling over late Saturday when the lake level exceeded 901 feet elevation. That's a number we've heard many times, 901 feet above sea level. Yesterday, that spillway began to erode, threatening major flooding in low-lying areas around the Feather River, and that's when we get to the mandatory evacuations May was just talking about, affecting the number we've heard repeatedly is 188,000 people.
Now, those evacuation orders are underway for residents of Butte, Sutter, and Yuba counties. Now, this all comes after the operation of that main spillway at the Orville Dam has led to this severe erosion that, again, could lead to a failure of the emergency spillway. Let's get a closer look now at the evacuations for you. It's mandatory. Mandatory evacuations are taking place right now in Butte County, Oroville, Palermo, Gridley, Thermalito, South Oroville, Orville Dam, Orville East, and Wyandotte. Residents there are urged to go north toward Chico. Let's go to Yuba County. There are mandatory evacuations here as well, and they're underway for Hellwood, Marysville, Olivehurst, Linda, and Plumas Lake. Residents here are being urged to travel east, south, or west.
And I'll get Sutter County here. Mandatory evacuations in order for Live Oak, Nicholas, and all communities along the river basin. Yuba City is a voluntary evacuation at this time. Residents asked to evacuate if they're going to west on Highway 20 and or south on Highways 99 or 70 toward Sacramento. And again, that one was voluntary. A number of people apparently are returning at this point to Yuba City because it appears as though the peak of the danger is past.
We want to take you live now to the press conference that we are waiting for. The Department of Water Resources has been assessing the damage as we got the light of day. They did a lot of work overnight, and as soon as they got to take a look at the damage they're done to the spillways at the Oroville Dam, they were assessing the situation and needed to continue to take a look at it and wanted to give us an update on the situation as the evacuation orders remain in effect. And a lot of people are hoping to go home, but they don't know yet because we are waiting for the Department of Water Resources to give us the all clear. We don't know whether or not that's going to happen this morning. And again, we are live here at the Department of Water Resources, just waiting for them to address the public and give us an update.
There's a lot we're waiting to find out, not least of which is we have been told for quite a while now that there's going to be a repair effort made by dropping these large, essentially bags of crushed rock down into the area that was eroded. Every time we check back in, we expect to see helicopters picking up those bags, and yet that has not happened yet. And so that, again, is one of the questions that we hope will be answered. We do know that crews have been working hard trying to either repair or at least come up with a way to repair the damaged area there along the emergency overflow.
Sure. Let's get to Fox 40's Rena Nakana, who's live at the Oroville Dam with an update for us. Hi, Rena.
Good morning, you guys. Yeah, lake levels continue to recede, thankfully. Unfortunately, there's still lots of work to be done. I want to swivel over this way. Just in the last 30 minutes or so, another helicopter just arrived right here. This is the sheriff's helicopter, not the ones that are going to be dropping down the sandbags and the rock bags into the holes for that spillway. But we do know there's a lot more manpower than there was early this morning. Of course, it all started last Tuesday when heavy storms created that gaping hole in the main spillway. But because water levels continue to creep up, the Department of Water Resources said, you know what? We have to use the broken spillway. Then on Saturday, water levels for the dam exceeded 100% capacity, and that's when water began flowing, tiptoeing over into the emergency spillway for the first time in the dam's 48-year history. Now, unlike the main spillway, which looks like a giant slide off of the dam, the emergency spillway is at the top of the dam. It's a weir or reserve dam that allows water to flow over the top and down into the hillside. But because the emergency spillway did not have a concrete line throughout the whole thing, unfortunately, parts of the bottom began to erode. Now, to prevent water from carving out the side of the hill even more, DWR doubled the flow out of its main damaged spillway to about 100,000 cubic feet per second. Again, yesterday they started bringing in these rocks and boulders from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill, and they've placed it here on this parking lot. Again, the goal now is to bag many of them up. So think gigantic sandbag situation, and then have these helicopters move them down into the holes for the spillway. Again, back out here live, we do want to say this effort right behind us is a temporary fix. They don't have any permanent solutions to the broken problems of the main spillway, but this will have to do for now. Now, the good news is there is no longer water coming out of the auxiliary or emergency spillway, which means the water has receded to less than 100%. So that's good news, but we are definitely not out of the woods yet. Of course, we have to remember that there's still 188,000 people who are under evacuation watch, and that's why we really have to keep an eye on this. Of course, Department of Water Resources is also keeping an eye eye on the water level situation. But out here, these helicopter pilots were telling me all they need is a green light for them to go ahead and fill up these holes. So hopefully in this 12 o'clock meeting, they will be given that green light so they can get to work. Reporting live out here in Oroville this morning, I'm Rena Nakano. I'll send it back to you.
They have been on standby since last night. Rena, thank you. We want to bring you the very latest here as the situation at the Oroville Dam has raised the eyebrows and put the spotlight on similar structures on other dams and levees in our area. The very latest from the National Weather Service of Sacramento is that county officials are reporting there could be imminent failure of the North Fork McCullum River levee. This would affect Tyler Island. It could be flooded and likely east of Walnut Grove.
Yeah, and again, you see there on the map, this is all west of Highway 50, and it's south of Walnut Grove there. Again, they're saying it is an imminent threat of failure there. It is, to the best of our knowledge, not related to what has been happening there in Oroville. It is worth noting, by the way, exactly a month ago today, January 16th, there was a levee breach on the Moke River near Lodi. And so that is... McCullum River has been challenged in this very wet winter, and again at this point, North Fork of the Moke River, the levee there, they're expecting an imminent failure that could result in flooding in the area.
And again, this is just west of I-5. 12:06 is your time. There are multiple evacuation centers for those who have been forced out of their homes.
Simone de Alba is in the newsroom with more details about that.
Yeah, Paul May, lots to tell you about here, so let's try and break it all down. Here's a list of the evacuation centers in Chico, and the following do not accept animals, but residents can find shelter at the Neighborhood Church of Chico. This is located on Notre Dame Boulevard, East Avenue Church on East Avenue, and Azad's Martial Arts on Walnut Street. And the following evacuation shelters in Butte County welcome evacuees with small animals. Bear in mind, some of them do require crates for your pets. Silver Dollar Fairgrounds on Fair Street in Chico, St. John's Episcopal Church on Floral Avenue in Chico, and Paradise Alliance Church on Clark Road. We're told RVs are also allowed at this location. Now, for residents with large animals, the following evacuation shelters accept livestock. Silver Dollar Fairgrounds in Chico, Rolling Hills RV Park, and Glenn County Fairgrounds. Other locations where RVs are accepted include Elks Lodge, this is on Manzanita Avenue in Chico, Glenn County Fairgrounds on East Yolo Street, this is in Orland, and Rolling Hills RV Park in Corning, along with Collins Lake Campground RV Park on Collins Lake Road in Browns Valley. Evacuees are asked to call ahead to check for availability. The number is listed there at the bottom of your screen. And guys, this is a fluid developing situation here in terms of evacuee centers. We're told Placer County Fairgrounds still has room, but places like Nevada County Shelter do not. They are full. Again, Beale Air Force Base is among those accepting evacuees. And then, as you were saying, First Baptist Church in Grass Valley has just opened up. So these are changing. These are dynamic. You know, we're seeing numbers of up to 190,000 evacuees. So people need a place to go. And so we're seeing communities open their doors to them.
Yeah, and thank you, Simone, and much needed. We're hearing early this morning already that hotels in Chico were already at full vacancy, and we're starting to see more and more of these evacuation centers, and we do have a full list for you on our website at fox40.com.
Yeah, our digital team maintaining that running list overnight and throughout the day. Evacuation centers, other resources available for anyone that has been displaced during this crisis. You can access that through the free Fox 40 News app. Just use the keyword evacuations in the search bar. That app, again, being updated with a special banner to make it easier for you to navigate.